This is the NBC Television Network.
It was one of baseball's magic moments. Last October 15th, Kirk Gibson's dramatic home run propelling the Dodgers to their World Championship. Now the Dodgers are preparing to defend their title, seeking to become the first team since the 77-78 Yankees to repeat as World Champions. And this afternoon, they continue their exhibition schedule against the American League East champion Boston Red Sox, a club that has certainly had its share of controversy these days. And it's a beautiful 84-degree day at Chain of Lakes Park in Winter Haven, Florida, the spring home of the Red Sox. Hi, everybody. I'm Marv Albert, and we welcome you to NBC Sports 1989 coverage of Major League Baseball. 2 weeks from today, our Game of the Week telecast will get underway. And it should be pointed out that this has not been a typical, uneventful, relaxing type spring training. On the contrary, it has been turmoil-filled, featuring a host of news-making incidents. The most serious allegations that Cincinnati manager Pete Rose has been betting on baseball. Rose is under investigation by the Office of the Baseball Commissioner. And there were explosives involving the New York Mets. At their team photo session, Darryl Strawberry took a swing at teammate Keith Hernandez and walked out of camp for one day, dissatisfied that the Mets would not renegotiate his contract. Last week, the Mets and Blue Jays, in a rather hostile exhibition game, had 3 bench-clearing eruptions. At least this time, the Mets were fighting the opposition. But the Phillies fought amongst themselves. Teammates Chris James and Von Hayes went at each other under the stands before a game. The Yankee camp wasn't quiet as Ricky Henderson charged that certain members of last year's Yankees abused alcohol and partied too much. Charges that were not appreciated by teammates who verbally lashed back. Then there was Danny Cox of the St. Louis Cardinals, frustrated over yet another arm injury, taking it out on a television cameraman. And the ongoing attention generated by the Wade Boggs-Margot Adams affair has carried right through spring training, capped off by last night's interview with Barbara Walters that the Red Sox did not appreciate. So it's been a curious string of events, and we're 9 days away from the start of the season. Now, we requested an interview with Wade Boggs, but he declined to appear with us. During the course of today's telecast, I'll be in the Dodger dugout to talk with Dodger manager Tom Lasorda and the rest of the world champions. Gail Gardner will get the Red Sox side of the story. She'll be in the Boston Red Sox dugout. Right now, let's go over to Gail.
Thank you, Marv. It has been a constant soap opera since the last time we saw the Red Sox fade away into the Oakland sunset. The Wade Boggs situation, of course, continues. Now there are trade rumors surrounding Boggs, and we will speak with Red Sox general manager Lou Gorman about that. There were public statements made by Roger Clemens, statements threatening the press. He has now fallen silent. And there were the difficult contract negotiations with Mike Greenwell. There was the departure of Bruce Hurst, leaving a gaping hole in the pitching rotation. And there is the always unpredictable status of Oil Can Boyd, who will be pitching today. So a lot of turmoil on the Red Sox. We will be speaking to some of the principals involved, at least those who will talk to us. Time now, though, to go to Vince Scully.
Thank you, Gail. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Saturday to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to Game 1, albeit it is an exhibition game, but it's a dandy. The Boston Red Sox and the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. This would appear to be a fitting time to break in a new partner and a name that is certainly as much a part of baseball history as humanly possible. A Hall of Famer for sure, 311 victories. I could go on and do everything but your blood type. Tom Seaver. And Tom, welcome to the show.
Ben, thank you very much. It's nice to be back with NBC, and I'm looking forward to a very enjoyable baseball season. I've been out for a couple of years, but you never lose that love for baseball, and I'm just looking forward to a very enjoyable season.
Well, today particularly, we would be most interested in your input as far as spring training is concerned. For instance, when they take the field today, the Red Sox will have won 8 games, the Dodgers will have won 12 games, but what does that mean?
Well, you kind of have to divide spring training up into sections. The early section is when all the kids are here, all the phenoms are here. Now, most of those those have gone down to the minor league complex. And not only do you get physically ready, but in the last 10, 15 days of spring training, you get mentally ready as well. And this is the last 10, 12 games are very important for a club to psychologically be ready for the season. You got to get ready physically in spring training, and the last part of it, you have to be ready mentally to get ready for a very tough season.
We're getting down to the very end of March. Opening day is just around the corner, and Dennis Oil Can Boyd and Tim Leary, two acknowledged fine pitchers, are on the mound. Where are they in spring training? What do you think they'd be trying to prove at this juncture?
Well, they're getting away from throwing and trying to pitch. Early in spring training, you're throwing, trying to get your arm in shape. Now it's time to do some pitching, spot the ball, change speeds, get around. The big thing for Oil Can Boyd, coming back off of surgery, the blood clot that he had in his shoulder, so every start that he does have in spring training is very important to him.
You're finished for the moment, but I don't want you running in the outfield, okay?
I will not do it.
Stay with me. We'll be right back right after this.
Today from Chain of Lakes Park in Winter Haven, Florida, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Boston Red Sox. This Game of the Week special edition is brought to you by Mazda and the exciting new Mazda cars and trucks for 1989. By John Deere and your local John Deere dealer. By the U.S. Armed Forces, it's a great place to start. And by Kellogg's Corn Flakes, simple, delicious, and surprising. Taste them again for the first time.
Just about time now to take a look at the Dodgers starting lineup. Willie Randolph at second base and Alfredo Griffin at short, with Mike Davis and Eddie Murray the DH. John Shelby in center, Mickey Hatcher at first, Tony Gwynn, Tracy Woodson, and Mike Scioscia in that order. On the mound is Dennis Oil Can Boyd, 9-game winner last year, coming back from a lot of troubles with his right shoulder. You may or may not remember he had to have surgery in '87, and twice last year he was bothered with blood clots, sizable, so that it looked like there was a marble underneath the skin. It really was scary. And Willie Randolph to start it off. Breaking ball, and we're underway. 0-1. Randolph adjusting to his ball club, and he does give the Dodgers an element that they have not had too much, and that's not any knock on Steve Sax, but he is better at turning the double play than Sax, so they will be stronger in that particular area. Little roller down to shortstop. Jody Reed makes the play, so we have one away. The Dodgers, as you may remember, won 94 games. They finished 7 games in front, beat the Mets 4 out of 7. They went on and win the World Series. And the Red Sox won 89 games, the fewest by any American League East champion, and they lost 4 straight to Oakland. And the batter now, Alfredo Griffin. Tommy Lasorda, who saw his ball club pull off that miracle, hoping somehow or other to come up with another one. Alfredo Griffin has hit in 13 straight. Alfredo hit under 200 all year. Lifetime, he's a much better hitter than that. He suffered a broken hand hit in May by Dwight Gooden, and this spring he feels as if he is once again the hitter that he was when he was in the American League. Tom, you've been to so many spring training camps, and I was just wondering, in watching Dennis Boyd at this stage, he has put up enough innings. Is he pretty close to throwing good breaking balls?
Well, Dennis is a pitcher that needs a good breaking ball. He needs a good off-speed pitches, slider, screwball, and he's one of the few pitchers in the major leagues that can throw the off-speed stuff anytime in the count. It doesn't make any difference ahead, behind, whatever. He's very comfortable and it's very good control that he can throw the screwball at any time. He can throw the changeup at any time. You know, and he's just nutty enough. He will do it, too. He is a very confident pitcher. His numbers, of course, not what you would want from a starting pitcher in the sense that he last year had a 5.3 ERA, but if he is healthy, he can be a very dependable pitcher on a staff.
Well, not too many years ago, he won 16 for the Red Sox in 1986. 1-2. Good breaking ball, and Griffin gave at the plate. I think he was looking inside. It looked like his fanny was over in the Red Sox dugout.
Well, Oil Can comes over the top, and that breaking ball that he has there is going to go straight down. You see a lot of arms, you see a lot of knees, you see the foot up there. There's a lot of commotion going on, and that pitch, when he gets on top of that ball, just breaks straight down, and he kept it right on the outside corner. I mean, even your 300 hitters, lifetime 300 hitters, are going to have trouble with that pitch.
Mike Davis coming up with 2 out in the first inning as the can is getting in his work. Just looking at the progression of a pitcher in spring training. For instance, he went an inning and 2/3 his first time out. Then his next 2 starts, he went 3 innings. Then he increased to 5. The last time he worked 4 innings. And I'm wondering, when you were pitching in spring training, would you ever pitch 9?
I never did, Vinny. It's one of the lost arts of spring training. I remember the old days they used to. You used to get pitchers come down here in spring and throw 9 innings in spring training, but I haven't seen that happen in a long time.
What would be the most you would consider you would pitch in one game and getting ready?
You get 7 innings out of one of your starting pitchers here in spring training, I think you're in pretty good shape. But you don't see many going more than 7 innings. Sometimes somebody can go 8. I think Bert Blyleven last year pitched 8 in spring training, but he's a workhorse. So certain guys know that they need certain things to get ready, and what's true for one pitcher may not be true for the next pitcher.
High foul off to the left of the plate. Rick Cerrone is there, and that's that. Oil Can Boyd sets the Dodgers down quickly. 1-2-3. Dodgers nothing. Red Sox coming up. Red Sox come into the game having won 3 straight. Jody Reed, Marty Barrett, and Dewey Evans. Then Mike Greenwell in left. Ellis Burks, the DH is Jim Rice. Nick Osaski, who came over from Cincinnati. Rick Cerrone behind the plate. Ed Romero playing for Wade Boggs, who has a muscle pull and will probably miss a couple of days. Tim Leary on the mound, and the first thing Tim had on his mind today was to send along his best wishes to his Uncle Phil in Arlington, Massachusetts. Phil recovering from surgery, and we're happy to pass along those best wishes. Leary, a 17-game winner last year thanks to a split-fingered fastball. And starts Reed with a strike, 0-1. Spike Owen dealt away, so it is Jody Reed's job. Todd Benzinger gone, so first base certainly a golden opportunity for Osaski. In there again, strike 2. You played briefly for Boston, and you were a veteran by that time anyway. I wonder how long it takes a man to become part of a ball club, and I guess it depends on the individual.
Well, it depends on the individual and the amount of contribution, I would think, certainly, Vinny. But half a year really does not do it. You spend a year with the guys in the clubhouse every day, on the airplanes every day, in the buses every day, going to different ballparks and on the road. After about a year, you really become and feel like you're just part of the team, part of that group.
You had about a half a year with Boston?
I had half a year.
Yeah. That's lifted back to first down the line. Chris Gwynn coming to the chalk, but is going to drop foul untouched. And the count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I got over to Boston, and John McNamara was the manager. Of course, John was replaced last year by Joe Morgan here at the Red Sox. But I got over there in the middle of the year, and they were in a pennant race and got to the World Series against the New York Mets. And it's always I wasn't able to pitch because I had knee damage. I had torn cartilage in my knee, but it's always a thrill, obviously, to go to the World Series, and one of these things that everybody is down here in spring training for, trying to get to the World Series.
High drive to left field, and Mike Davis is there to make the catch for the out. 1 away, and Marty Barrett coming up. Yeah, it would have been one of the great stories, Tom Seaver pitching in the World Series for Boston against the Mets.
For anybody against the Mets, I guess would have been a decent story. Yes.
You know, the story about
Boston.
You going
That's
in.
right.
What a story. Marty Barrett checking in, the solid second baseman. Had a very good year, very reliable ball player. Understand, and of course contracts very much in the news these days. And Marty Barrett looks at what Steve Sachs got with the Yankees, and he would like to explore that situation with Boston.
He sees also what Scotty Fletcher got with the Texas Rangers. And earlier, I talked to Marty earlier before the game, saying that he had set a date, March 25th, as saying this is kind of when I would like this thing wrapped up, today being the 25th. Nothing has happened, he said. He would like to spend his career in Boston. He likes Boston. He likes this ball club. But if there is no movement, he would not be against moving on to another ball club. He says, yes, it is business, and business is business.
That's hit foul down the right field line out of play, and the count 0-2. Wade Boggs, we understand from what we've read and heard, wants a 3-year deal with no trade in the deal. Meanwhile, I think if he signs where it is not a no-trade deal, that would then make him more available, I think, to other teams.
Well, it's one of the things that's holding the trade. If Wade Boggs is indeed going to be traded, that's one of the things that's holding it back for Lou Gorman, the general manager of the Red Sox, is that he is on the last year of a contract.
There's a ball that's hit well into left center field. John Shelby and Mike Davis, and it's over Davis' head and against the wall. Marty Barrett into second base making a turn, and the relay by Alfredo Griffin is not in time. So Marty Barrett, a one-out triple up the alley in left center field. And now you have Dwight Evans and Mike Greenwell to pick him up.
Ran it down in the outfield, but the big thing was an 0-2 pitch right up in his eyes. That's a typical spring training mistake, and something that during the season would drive people crazy. Barrett,
well,
he's a good little player. He's always people underestimate what he can mean to a ball club. I believe doesn't have the greatest range defensively, but he's always in the right spot. And you see right there, he wasn't looking at the third base coach. He made the judge himself, went right on to third base. He knew the outfielders. He knows how people throw in the outfield. He's a smart little player and does the little things mentally that help you win.
Well, we'll see now about Dewey Evans picking him up from third. And later on, in talking about Marty Barrett and his contract, we're going to have a chance to visit with Lou Gorman. And, of course, that triple is going to help him a little bit, I guess, right? Say, what a heady player. Do you hear Seaver? You want to sign him?
I think they're well aware of that.
Yeah, I think so, too. Yeah. Well, here's a fellow who has had an incredible career, and I'm so glad that his son Justin is all right. And Evans at 37 has a clear mind and is enjoying a fine spring. High twisting foul down the line. Hatcher trying to get under it. Does. Barrett tags, comes to the plate, and he scores. The Dodgers will appeal automatically that he left third too soon, but no good, as Derwood Merrill right there. Hatcher making the play, and Barrett was alert, and as soon as Hatcher caught it, he took off.
Hatcher delayed just a fraction, and Marty at third base back tagging up on the bag knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew that Hatcher does not have a good arm, doesn't have a strong arm, and as soon as the ball made contact with the glove, he took off and indeed did beat the throw. Good play by Shosha at home, but Barrett just beat the throw.
Hatcher had just come off the sick list. The Dodgers have really been doing hand-to-hand combat with a flu epidemic over at Vero Beach. Something like 40 minor league players have been inflicted with the flu. 10 Dodgers, and Hatcher just one of them, who's a little rubber-legged. The left fielder Mike Davis is another. And when you say to Tommy Lasorda, have you seen Gibson? Lasorda says the last time I saw Gibson, he was scoring, and that's the only game he's played in. Kirk's played one game.
He always scores every game he plays in, doesn't he?
High foul down the line and out of play, and the count is 1-2 as Mike Davis comes over, but he can't get it, and I don't think he's running properly yet either. It always brings up an interesting point when someone has to go down and make a tough play with a runner at third. Does Hatcher, well, he obviously caught the ball, but there are some fans who say, gee, it was a tough play, he was going away from the play, but it was a heads-up play for Mickey.
Well, he's got to think. Mickey has to catch the ball. Definitely with Dwight Evans. Dwight Evans, if you let the ball drop, he'd come back, hit the next pitch over the fence, make a two-run home run. Marty Barrett, who doesn't run exceptionally well at third, and I think Barrett surprised Hatcher on the play, and that's why he scored. Definitely have to catch the ball.
1-2. And Greenwell takes low and inside at his ankle. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and that got a little bit of Chuck Merriweather, who is anything but merry right now behind the plate. Chuck nailed by the foul ball. Jerry Lane umpiring at first, and Derwood Merrill on the line at third. We were talking about Tim Leary's uncle. We'd also like to send along our congratulations to Debbie and Bob McIntyre of the Red Sox scouting department. Debbie, an administrative assistant. They're the proud new parents of Erin Elizabeth, who was born yesterday. And since I have an Erin Elizabeth of our own, why, I cherish the name. Congratulations, Debbie. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count to Mike Greenwell with Ellis Burks on deck.
There's Oil Can in the dugout, sitting next to Bill Fisher on his left, the pitching coach for the Red Sox, Joe Morgan, covering that arm. No, not necessarily to wear a jacket in spring training, but pitchers will always keep that skin covered.
2 balls, 2 strikes. You know, with Greenwell at the plate, everybody remembers Kirk Gibson's home run, right, in the World Series. What a dramatic home run. But Greenwell remembers that date for another reason. Yep, it was the birth of his first child. His wife Tracy gave birth to his son Bo the same day that Kirk Gibson had the dramatic home run in the World Series. So they'll remember it either way. Mike goes down, but the Sox get a run on a hit. And at the end of an inning, it's Boston 1, Dodgers nothing. Red Sox leading the Dodgers 1-0 as we go to the second inning. Eddie Murray, John Shelby, and Mickey Hatcher. Murray has hit in 8 of his last 9, and he's been, as figures, the big gun for the Dodgers. Murray, as he checks in, has 3 home runs and 13 RBIs. What a hitter this guy is.
Well, he's an outstanding hitter, one of the outstanding hitters in the major leagues. All you do is look at his numbers, you can tell that. And this is a steal for the Los Angeles Dodgers. You look at this ball club and the 2 players that they have picked up in the last 2 years, Kirk Gibson and Eddie Murray. This guy is a top-notch player. Certainly Baltimore had to trade him. They wanted to get rid of his salary. The Orioles going through a rebuilding session. And a lot of very outstanding National League first basemen as well. You know, I mean, a lot of clubs that could not use Eddie Murray because they have outstanding players there themselves. But this is a steal and a guy that's going to fit beautifully in the middle of that Dodger lineup, right in between Gibson and
Marshall.
Mike Marshall in right field.
No balls and 1 strike. And hammers it to right. Evans is there to handle it, but boy, that thing was blistered. So Murray, a line drive to right field. 1 down, and John Shelby, the batter. We can take a look at that left-handed swing of Murray, a multi-talented guy from either side of the plate. And he has already shown his new team tremendous power, so we'll take another look at it. Here's John Shelby. And he goes after a change. Great pitch by Boyd. A trio of Red Sox, and it'll be the left fielder Mike Greenwell. Boy, there's a good straight change. The end of March, the boys are getting ready.
He will not throw it any time, and that's typical Oil Can when he's pitching well. Very important guy for the Boston Red Sox. When you look at the pitcher that they lost to the San Diego Padres and Bruce Hurst, they're going to have somebody to help Roger Clemens to shut down the opposition in the American League, and this guy is one of the big people that they're going to count on, no question about it. Mike Boddicker coming over from the Orioles last year, Oil Can, Roger Clemens. They've got a decent pitching staff, but they need a real good effort out of Oil Can Boyd.
And you know, that gets back to the Wade Boggs contract. If he does sign a deal without a no-trade clause, suddenly you think of Langston, Bannister, somebody who might very well come over and join the Red Sox. Hatcher lifting a fly ball to right center. Evans and Burks, and it will be Dwight Evans. So a very easy inning for Oil Can Boyd, who has retired 6 in a row, and at the end of an inning and a half, Red Sox 1, Dodgers nothing. The overhead shot provided by the MetLife blimp, which has worked with NBC Sports on many occasions, will be seen at the 1989 Major League Baseball All-Star Game in Anaheim. And that's the Red Sox complex here in Winter Haven. And, of course, the big ballpark, Chain of Lakes Park.
Another thing about this, Benny, you can see out there beyond right field, that used to be all orange groves out there. This park at one time was just seemingly out in the middle of nowhere. Now there's a big apartment complex out there, there's a swimming pool. I mean, this was really in the sticks at one time.
Yeah.
You really felt like you were right in the middle of Florida's orange groves out here.
The very talented Ellis Burks, followed by Jim Rice and then Nick Osaski. Tim Leary, the 17-game winner who really turned it around, and Burks, one of the really outstanding young players in all of baseball. And with all of it, 24 years old. He had arthroscopic surgery in his right ankle in '88 in spring training, and still came back with a fine year despite a wrist problem to go along with it. Popped it up in the right side, Randolph angling out, and makes the catch. I was just thinking, Tom, when was your first spring training? Do you remember it?
My first spring training, Major League spring training, was 1967. I did go to Homestead, Florida in 1966 when I left Southern Cal. But my first one was St. Petersburg, Florida with the New York Mets in 1967. I walked in the clubhouse and number 41 was hanging in my locker. A lot of people ask me how I got the number 41 on my uniform, which I had in all my stops through Cincinnati, of course, New York, Cincinnati, Chicago, and Boston. I always had 41. It just was hanging in my locker when I got there, and I was glad to have a number.
Well, here's a number that's been hanging in the Red Sox locker for a long time, and Jim Rice having a tremendous spring. He's hit in 12 straight. He leads the club with 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, and he's hitting .441.
I don't think they got him out yesterday. The Cincinnati Reds didn't quite figure out how to get him out. He is just crushing the ball.
That, of course, is a great sign for the Sox if Rice is coming back. 1-1. Ball 2, 2-1.
Richie Hebner, the batting coach for the Boston Red Sox, who is replacing Walt Rainiac, said one thing that Jimmy might be doing differently is that back right leg. He's almost going after it like he is with a golf swing. He really felt like for 2 years Jimmy was hitting upper body, and now he's getting that lower half of the body into it, turning that right knee into it as he goes to make his swing. Richie felt that before. There's Richie Hebner in the Boston Red Sox dugout, the new batting coach, replacing a very good man, Walt Rainiac, by the way, who has moved on to the Chicago White Sox.
For a sizable contract and a lot of money.
That's right. And he does because of his well-deserved, because of his track record.
2-2. 1 out, second inning. Red Sox 1. Dodgers nothing. Foul back. Richie Hebner, when he first came up with Pittsburgh, they always talked about the fact that he had an off-season job of digging graves. And a lot of people have baseball language, dug a grave for Jim Rice. Here he is roaring back. Ball 3. When you were a solid major league player, were you more or less allowed the opportunity, and I'm thinking about Rice and others, to train on your own according to your own schedule?
It depended on the manager, but for the most part, sometimes you reach a certain level and you can just more or less pick your own way and find out what you have to do.
High fly ball down the right field line. Hatcher is not going to get to it, so still 3-2.
I think, Vinny, if you reach a certain level, you know, and you have enough experience, you have enough time, you work closely with your coaches, but as long as they are hearing good things from you, Steve Carlton or a veteran player like a Jimmy Rice, nobody comes and tells him what to do. They say he has just been working his rear end off here. I mean, he's working extremely hard. He says he has a different attitude. Well, he's on his own, really on his own program, and he just wants to play. I asked him about it. He says, all I want to do is hit 300, hit 30 home runs, and drive in 100 runs.
Nice.
That's all I want to do. That's all I care about. And all the other stuff that's going on around the ballpark, I don't care.
Fouled away, which brings up a big point. Does a player's individual problems, the Boggs story, do you feel that has a great weight upon the other team? Or do you think ball players are so insular they forget it?
I don't think there's any doubt that it has carried some weight into the clubhouse. Or why in the world would the Boston Red Sox want to trade, and Lou Gorman now openly saying, actively trying to trade Wade Boggs?
A drive to right field. Chris Gwynn is there and makes the play for the second out. 2 down. The Sox have won 8 games in the spring and 8-14. So, of course, you're looking for a lot of reasons. And there are people wondering, well, it's all of the Boggs brouhaha.
I don't know if it's all the Boggs brouhaha, but it's a matter of that players are maybe not comfortable. And there's a Wade Boggs who is not playing. He has a sore hamstring. But why in the world would a ball club try to trade a guy who is just an absolutely offensive machine like a Wade Boggs? It must be having some effect, at least in Lou Gorman's eyes, affecting the ball club.
Well, maybe we'll find out in a while. There's another ball hit down that line with Hatcher in pursuit. Gwynn coming over, and it is Chris Gwynn who makes the play in foul territory. So they're gone in order at the end of 2-1-0. Red Sox will be right back after these messages from your local station. For the umpteenth time in 2 innings, it seems Mickey Hatcher running down the line, and he's hollered off, and a good catch by Chris Gwynn. catcher coming off the flu list and has to be a little rubber-legged, and running down the line and looking up to the sky is like painting the ceiling of a closet. It's got to get you a little goofy.
And when you run down there, you're running on your heels anyway, looking back over your shoulders. Oh.
What a day he's had
I've never
already.
seen that guy not smiling. I saw him down the field today, and I said, "Hi, Mickey." And he said, "That was a great day." And then a big smile came on his face.
It'll be Chris Gwynn, Tracy Woodson, and Mike Socia coming up in the third inning. 1-0 Boston. Chris Gwynn, the illustrious Tony Gwynn's kid brother, and this fella can swing the bat. He's hit in 8 straight in the spring, and the Dodgers will have a tough decision about whether they're going to have to send him back or not. Strike. 0-1. That must be tough to be a ball player so close to making a big squad and being sent back.
Well, sometimes if there's no opportunity, you just have to go back and wait your turn. That poor youngster for the New York Mets, Wester, had to go down to the minor leagues because of the pitching staff that the Mets have. And here's a kid that let's say has a great fastball, good composure, is ready to pitch in the big leagues, but no spot. And you can't take him up to the big club if you're going to sit him down. Young players like that have to play somewhere. Just like the kid Jim Abbott for the Angels. He's got to go out and pitch. You have to go pitch someplace.
0-2. Breaking ball hit to first base, grabbed there by Nick Osaski, who feeds Boyd coming over in time. 1 away. Tracy Woodson will be coming up. It's another thing about kids. You think of spring training as a very relaxed, easy part of baseball life, but the kids who are trying to, well, not that kind of a kid. He's just having a ball with that red hair. Yes. It's like one of mine. Isn't that great? But a kid like a Woodson, for instance, there's some pressure on him to try and impress because he's a borderline player.
Well, we talked about it a little bit before, maybe Jim Rice being on his own schedule, making up how he wants to go about it. Well, that's, he's earned that status. Well, the other part is maybe the pressure and the game phase for these young kids, starts from day one because they're trying to make a job, no question about it. Other guys that are veterans, like Socia, who's on deck, he knows he's going to catch. He just has to get physically ready and not get hurt. Other guys got to, they're trying to make a ball club and trying to earn a position.
This kid can play first and third, and he's been swinging a good bat. Tracy Woodson hitting .400 in the spring. And McCann throwing very, very well. Every time you look up, it's 0-2.
Yeah, that pitch was a bad pitch. That's the worst pitch that he has thrown. The first couple innings, he threw 15 pitches, 12 strikes and 3 balls, but he had 0-2 count there, and that was either a screwball or curveball, and he hung right up in his eyes. And Ken knew it too. He knew it was a bad pitch, and you'll see his reaction. See where the ball is up in the strike zone, right in the hitting zone. There's another one.
That's dropped behind the plate, so Cerrone picks it up, and he out recorded it first. So the Can has retired 8 in a row. That's his second strikeout. A lot of people feel Gibson's home run was the biggest in 1988 for the Dodgers, but there are a lot of people close to the Dodgers who say this is the big home run. The Dodgers were losing. Socia had hit only 3 home runs. He hits this one against Dwight Gooden, ties up a game they appeared to have lost. The game went 12 innings. The Dodgers won it and went on from there to the glory. But what a home run that was. Now, he's another fella you would never really think much about in spring training. He hit a home run the other day to win an exhibition game against Atlanta. It's the only home run he's hit in 13 years of spring training. So much for the spring. 1-0. Socia has slimmed down, and the leaner he gets, the better he will be. He's a big man, and of course he has a great reputation of blocking the plate, but he got too heavy. Good fastball. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 down, third inning. Red Sox 1, Dodgers nothing from Chain of Lakes Park in Winter Haven. And especially for those folks who live in bad weather today, we share a little of this for you. High fly ball into deep right field. Back goes Evans at the wall. He's hit his second home run in 13 springs. But the key is, it's no fluke, he has lost weight. And he is so much quicker in getting his hips out of the way, and he can be kind of a rebirth player. You take him for granted. Let's take another look at that swing.
Well, the breaking ball just stayed right in the middle of the plate, and here's a good shot of the hips as you talk about, Vinny, and boom, he does clear them out of the way. That's what brings the bat through. Either a hanging curveball or a hanging slider. Dwight Evans going back in case he would have a chance, but it was gone from the time he hit it, and hit it extremely well. A couple of bad pitches the last couple of hitters. That pitch right in the middle of the strike zone.
Willie Randolph, the leadoff hitter now, takes ball one. 1 ball and no strikes. We have a 1-1 tie here in the third on this Saturday afternoon visit. Kind of a game for you as well as for all of us. Spring training exercise. 1-0. 2 balls and no strikes. Randolph grounded to short in the first inning. I think the big concern, or at least not concern, but a thought, Willie has had some physical problems, and now that he's in the National League, that means he'll be playing a lot on AstroTurf, and that always takes its toll, especially on a veteran player.
Well, he's playing most of his games at home at Dodger Stadium, of course, 81 of them.
Right.
Dodger Stadium, from my recollection, was very, very hard infield when I was in. I don't know if they have changed it since I left the National League in 1983, but it's the Dodgers historically have had a very hard infield.
That's fouled off first and drifting towards the stands and out of play, and they count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
But he will be playing at home on a grass field, which is a plus, rather than having your home field be an AstroTurf field. He had that luxury, of course, in Yankee Stadium, which is natural grass.
2 balls and 2 strikes. They count to Willie Randolph. 2 down in the third inning. A 1-1 tie. Oil Can Boyd and Tim Leary. 3-2. On deck, Alfredo Griffin. It's interesting in this day and age. You look at a Dodger lineup. The Dodgers, an organization that prided itself in developing its own. And the first 6 hitters in the lineup all came over from the American League. Here's ball 4. You have Randolph, Griffin, Davis, Murray, Shelby, and even Hatcher came over from Minnesota. I think in a sense baseball legislated for socialism so there would not be any dynasties anymore, you know, to win 10 years in a row.
It was unheard of. He didn't have guys go back and forth. And you look at the Boston Red Sox, the first 6 guys in their lineup have never played for anybody but the Boston Red Sox. It's kind of a reverse of what you think it would probably be because of the great tradition of the Dodgers having their own kinds of people, their own out of their own farm system.
And you know, one of the big tip-offs on the big change in baseball, 2 organizations extremely successful and great minor league systems wound up trading with each other, Baltimore and Los Angeles. Oh, 0-1 to count to Alfredo Griffin. He struck out in the first inning. Griffin followed by Mike Davis. As you can see, he had a very poor year last year, 59 points less than his career average. Part of it, I guess, getting accustomed to a new league and, of course, the broken hand. No balls and 1 strike. And there goes Randolph. Swung on and missed at the plate, and Willie is nailed despite going in head first on the neighborhood tag by Jody Reed. And Willie can't believe it. He got me up here. My hand was on the bag. And the third base umpire, Durwood Merrill, says, see you later. We have a 1-1 tie in the third inning for Mike Scioscia. Time to go back to work.
Welcome back to Winter Haven, where the Red Sox and Dodgers are tied up at 1 apiece. Joining me is Red Sox general manager Lou Gorman. Lou, first of all, you did not want Wade Boggs to do that interview last night on 2020. He did it, and what's been your reaction?
Well, not really. We asked him. We felt there was nothing to gain by doing it, and we said, Wade, look, we don't think you should go on. You're going to go on national television. It's not going to do you any good. It's not going to help the case. Why not refuse it? But he insisted he wanted to go. He said that Barbara had talked to him personally, told him what the question would be, told him she'd put him in a good light, so he agreed to go.
Did you watch it?
I did not. I watched basketball last night.
Watch it?
No, I didn't watch it.
All right. First of all, of course, trade rumors circulating. Are you actively trying right now to trade Wade Boggs?
I'm not trying to, but clubs keep calling me thinking he's available. So every time someone calls, I listen, and you never know what you might find out. I've had many clubs calling me the entire spring, a number of them calling about Wade. At this moment in time, there are conversations going on. How close we are, I don't know.
Have you been told to unload him? Have you been told to do that?
No. Ownership, Mrs. Yawkey, Hayward Sullivan, John Harrington have never directed me to trade Wade. Wade is an outstanding player, a 5-time batting champion, a future Hall of Fame player. We're not going to trade Wade unless we got value for him. I listen when clubs call, but I'm not actively trying to trade him. But if someone could make an offer, would improve the club, I'd have to listen to it.
Don't you think, though, that this has been so divisive in a lot of ways that maybe that is your only alternative?
I don't think so. I think the club, it's been diffused very much in the clubhouse. Attitude in the clubhouse is good. Morale is good on the ball club. I think we've had Wade and the players talk it out man to man. I think the total thing is diffused in the clubhouse. It's more media hype than anything else.
Let me ask you, what clubs are you talking to right now, and what are the possibilities?
Well, I've talked to the Seattle Ball Club. I've talked to the Kansas City Ball Club. I've talked with the Met Ball Club. I've talked with the Cardinals and the Brave organization. They're mostly conversations. There are possibilities, but whether something can be done, only time will tell.
All right, you were in desperate need, I think, of another starter. Is that imperative in any deal that you make? I
don't think we're in desperate need for a starter. I think our starting rotation can be very good. I really would like a left-hander in that rotation. Joe Morgan's not that concerned about it. Joe feels our 5 right-hand starters are going to be fine. But I'd like to get a left-hander because against clubs like Detroit or the Toronto Ball Club or the Yankees, left-hander can be very effective. I'd like to get a good left-hander if I can get one. Not just a left-hander, but a good one. If I can't, we'll stay with the 5 right-handers we have.
Okay. One quick question from Vin he wanted me to ask you. Is it true that you sent your wife an anniversary card on her birthday, Lou?
Yeah, I did. My mind's been so involved this spring. It's been an unbelievable spring that I walked into the store knowing it was her birthday, got to the anniversary counter, bought the anniversary card instead of a birthday card. And when I gave them to her, she was totally taken back, couldn't figure it out. But my mind's been so involved this spring. She wasn't happy with it.
I can imagine not. Okay, Lou Gorman, thank you very much. Let's go back to Vin Scully. Vin?
All right, Gail, what a sweet man. Lou Gorman, one of our favorites. 1-1 tie here in the third, with Rick Cerrone a base hit to left field and Ed Romero trying to move him around. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count, and on deck the shortstop Jody Reed. Tim Leary, a remarkable case history of a guy who didn't quit on himself and suddenly became a premier pitcher last year. Chopper to third, short hop by Woodson, down to Randolph, and back to Hatcher, double play.
Leary certainly is a guy that could have quit, Vinny, and you consider the year before he was 3-11, just had an awful year. But he rebounded last year, as we see the replay of the double play, a good sinker down and the ground ball to third, over to second, around the first to Hatcher, and but Leary bounced back last year, and after never having a winning season in the major leagues, and bounces back to a 17-11 and a 2.91 ERA. You saw the graphic there, being the comeback player of the year with the Sporting News. And his numbers are terrific, too. 228 innings pitched, one of the things I look for in a pitcher. And only 201 hits. His hits well below his innings pitched. And very indicative of a guy that's is going to have an outstanding year simply because of the numbers, and it's because he went down to Mexico and learned a new pitch.
He became the Dodgers' answer to Mike Scott, coming off a 3-victory season. He learned the split finger fastball, perfected it in the Mexican League in Tijuana, and then came back and won the 17. He's a very good athlete. His mother was an excellent golfer, club champion at Riviera, where they hold the Los Angeles Open. And so Tim has it all. He's big. He's 6'3", 190 pounder. And with all of it, he's only 30 years old. So he's just coming into his own. 2-1. In there, 2-2. And I mean, he gives a full definition to the word quiet.
Quiet in the dictionary, and that's where his picture is.
That's it. Soft-spoken. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Fastball hit into right field. Base hit, so Jody Reed goes the other way. And singles to right, and that'll bring up Marty Barrett. We have a 1-1 tie. The Sox had Barrett triple and come home on Evans' foul ball. And the Dodgers had a home run from Mike Sosa. So we're all even at 1 here in the third inning. So Barrett 1 for 1. On deck, Dwight Evans. Red Sox will open against Baltimore on the road, and of course for Baltimore, a team that lost 21 straight and wound up losing 107. Boston has to hope that they're going to get off on the right foot. The Dodgers, meanwhile, are going to open up against the Cincinnati Reds on April the 3rd, and there's another ball club like Boston that has to be shaken up over the Pete Rose story.
Has to affect the ball club. all the press. I mean, the press day in and day out and day in and day out, and it's very difficult to be able to concentrate on your job when you go out on the field. Wade Boggs is able to do it. I mean, you look at his numbers. Just last year, he had 366, the second highest he's ever had. Raises a lifetime average.
Isn't it true,
Won another
though,
batting title.
When the media is on you and you're the center of attention, that's off the field, and actually baseball becomes the great escape.
Almost a relief. Is exactly right. But there's no escape in the clubhouse, and when the media is around so much. Certainly, the situation in Cincinnati has got to be upsetting to especially the young players on that ball club who look up to Rose and say, a sense of being an idol.
With Jody Reed going and the pitch juggled, he has himself a stolen base. So Reed into second with 2 down in the 3rd inning. See Socia leaning on the outside part of the plate. Started to come up to get the throw off, and like a piece of wet soap, it just came right out of his hand.
Well, something you won't see from the Red Sox very often. They certainly don't steal many bases. They don't even attempt to steal many bases. Unlike some clubs that come to mind, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are running all the time. They're the graphic last in the American League in stolen bases in 7 of the last 9 seasons.
Ooh, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Of course, when you play at Fenway and the Green Monster, etc., I guess you're thinking basically more of hitting one out of the ballpark rather than the stolen base, and Joe utilizes what he has. You know what Joe was saying before the ball game? He was talking about Mike Greenwell, and he said Greenwell was really unlucky last year in that he probably lost 7 or 8 home runs to the wind. And Ted Williams has always said that people are not aware of the fact that when you play in Fenway Park, the prevailing wind is from right to left, and a lot of balls hit to left field are cut down. And in Mike Greenwell's case, as Mike sits there taking in the game, Joe Morgan was saying, by gosh, Ted was right. Greenwell lost maybe 8 of them last year, and of course he hit 22. So that's a factor that I don't think many of us have ever taken into consideration. Broken bat, blooper to right. Hatcher can't get it, and the run is in. And Hatcher is still painting the ceiling of the closet. I don't know how long he can go trying to make those plays coming off the flu. So Marty Barrett, a bloop single, and that stolen base, a very important one to get in the run.
It's a couple that Mickey has been very close to, going back there. He's not going to have to do his running after the game today. He's getting a full workout down at first base.
Of course, it also brings up the point that this game is being played in an American League ballpark, which means that Dodgers can give Hatcher a workout, and a workout he's getting, and still DH Murray. When you play an American League ball team in a National League ballpark in the spring, the American League managers are really fit to be tied, because they say, why do I have to be in spring training and have my pitchers do what they're not going to do for an entire season, as we see Eddie Murray?
I stopped at Plant City yesterday and watched the Red Sox play the Cincinnati Reds, and then earlier today I was in the clubhouse talking to some of the Boston players, kidding Roger Clemens about his at-bats yesterday. I told him that was one of the weakest ground balls I'd ever seen. He had a little dribbler to the second baseman. He says, yeah, but did you see my line drive up the middle? Even the American League pitchers love it when they get, maybe the managers don't, but the pitchers love it when they get a chance to hit.
Evans, who toes that foot in, fouled out, got the run home. He's hit in 7 straight. Unusual stance.
This guy just gets better with age. 8 Gold Gloves he has. He's the only player with 20 or more home runs in each of the last 8 years in the major leagues. A beautifully conditioned athlete. Extremely hard worker.
At 37 he can still play.
And play with the best of them.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Look at those toes. So Dwight Evans striking out, but 2 base hits and a stolen base, and the Sox have taken the lead again. And at the end of 3, Boston 2, Los Angeles 1.
Welcome back to Winter Haven. Marv Albert with Dodger manager Tom Lasorda, who a moment ago was pacing the dugout, very upset. You felt things were too quiet here, huh?
Well, first of all, we didn't have too much life in his dugout, which I didn't like. Number 2, He's got the guy struck out when the guy was stealing second base. He should have been called out. It should have been a third out. There should have been no runs on the board. Well, the guy misses the call, and we don't get the guy at second. Next guy bloops the ball with 2 strikes, and we give up a run. I mean, should have been a 0 up on that board as far as I'm concerned. The game should still be 1-1.
Your regular season form here, Tom.
Why not? I've come here to win. We didn't travel 2 hours to lose.
You know, I'm looking at you. It is now a svelte Tom Lasorda. You like that, I know, also. You lost, what, 10, 15 pounds? You're killing your image, you realize.
I know. I realize that, but I've got to do it for charity, man. I got a lot of money riding on charity for this thing, and I've been taking that slim fast thing, and it's really been helping me a great deal. So I'm going to really lose. I got to lose 20 pounds by the All-Star break.
I understand there is a challenge issued by Oral Hershiser, Kirk Gibson, and they have offered $10,000 apiece to charity if you lose, 15, 20, as you say,
20 pounds.
And keep it off the whole season.
Yeah, and then Hershiser came back, and if I lose 8 more besides that 20, he puts another $10,000 in. So also we have a group of nuns in Nashville, Tennessee, that with the charity money, I want to help them build a home down there. They need a home real bad. So I'm doing it because of the fact that it's better for me that I do lose the weight, but more important that I'm helping somebody.
So you're pretending the carrots are actually hamburgers and steaks.
Oh, Reuben sandwiches, Philadelphia cheesesteaks. When I eat my Slim Fast, I think it's filet mignon.
And you looked very spry, I must say, taking infield practice. We were watching you, had the cameras on before the game.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of exercise, and I threw 2 hours of batting practice the other day, Marv, and it really helped me a lot. And I'm feeling good. My energy level is very, very good, and still I'm losing the weight, and this is what I need real bad.
Thomas, I look back to a year ago at this time. You were involved, the ball club was involved in the aftermath of the prank that was pulled on Kirk Gibson that made a statement. He was very annoyed about it, and it seemed to change the tone of the Dodger ball club. And of course, you went on to have a year that people did not anticipate.
Well, Kurt has been a great leader for our ball club, no doubt about it. And it was a great thing for our whole organization, Marv, to win this thing like we did last year. It was a team that captured the hearts of America. Everybody was very, very proud of our ball club. Our guys believed in themselves. A lot of people didn't believe in us, and when we did it, they didn't think it was possible. So it made a great season. It was a team that really showed the entire world what you can do if you really believe in yourself.
Tom, if things get or continue to be too quiet here, is there any plans for perhaps another prank to be played on Kirk? And who would do that?
Well, we'll have to think of something. Somebody we want to get rid of.
Yes.
We'll make sure he pulls it on Kirk.
All right, from a svelte Tom Lasorda, back upstairs to Vin and Tom.
And a high drive to right field, caught by Evans. He's got a double play if he can get the ball to first, but he can't get it back in time. And Alfredo Griffin is back on the bag. So Mike Davis hits a long fly ball to right, and you can hear Lasorda trying to will that thing over the fence. Not quite enough. So Eddie Murray will be coming up with Griffin at first after the long out to right field. Tommy's instituted a new rule on the ball club in the spring. When you go out on the road, if you miss a sign, you have to buy chicken for the team. They have fried chicken brought into the dressing room. Yeah, every day they play chicken on the road. Just something to get you through this endless rehearsal.
Somehow I knew there was going to be food involved.
Fouled away by Eddie Murray, who blistered one right at Evans in the second inning. 0-1 to count.
Eddie Murray certainly helped this Dodger lineup. Stick him right in there between Gibson and Mike Marshall. It's going to make Marshall a better hitter, take some of the pressure. And you know, when you take a hitter of this magnitude and stick him in the lineup, it just helps everybody. It helps lighten the load of what a ball club has to do. What each individual has to do becomes lighter because an Eddie Murray can do so much.
Well, this time he's going to foul out to Rick Cerrone. So Alfredo Griffin stays at first with 2 down. And the batter will be John Shelby. So Murray and newcomer Willie Randolph would appear to give the Dodgers a vastly improved defensive right side of the infield. And, of course, Murray will provide a lot of size. And if Randolph is healthy, why, he should hit plenty.
Another thing the Dodgers were talking about Randolph was the number of base on balls he can get. One of the things that Steve Sachs did not do for the Dodgers was get a number of base on balls in the leadoff position, where Willie has a great eye, he's a very patient setter, and will get a number of walks during the season.
Yeah, he walked as many as 119 times in his days with the Yankees. So, and he's a .274 lifetime batter. Nick Osaski holding the corner. First base was a trouble spot for the Red Sox last year. Dewey Evans played a little bit, Todd Benzinger, and they finally decided to go to Osaski. And if he doesn't cut it, well, Sam Horn is here, Carlos Quintana.
One of the big things, they got Dwight Evans back out to right field.
By the way, that was a good shot to show you the difference between playing in Cincinnati and Boston. There's a drive to center for a base hit. Griffin to second, makes a turn. He's going to try and take the extra base, and he gets away with it. He suddenly shifted into high gear, so Shelby singles him to third with 2 out.
He's an exciting little player, this guy. A gem defensively, and did he ever turn it on? He was like a greyhound going around that second base, wasn't he?
From slow to high in a hurry. We're talking about Nick Osaski moving over to the Red Sox, and you had one shot of him looking like he came off a cough drop box. That's the difference. In Cincinnati, he had to be clean shaven. But here in Boston, or with Boston, he goes to the beard. Mickey Hatcher, first and third, 2 out, with the Red Sox leading 2-1. Breaking ball strike, 0-1. Hatcher one year when he joined the Dodgers. Suddenly in the middle of the game, up the flagpole in center field with a pair of pants cut at the knees. Not only did Hatcher cut them, they were assorted as pants. I mean, you're fooling with
dress
dynamite
pants.
there. Yeah,
dress pants.
Right. Dress pants. 2 down in the 4th. Red Sox 2, Dodgers 1. Who's the best or greatest prankster you ever saw? You got one?
There were a lot of them.
A bluff at first, breaking ball off the plate, and the count 1-1. Jerry Royce comes to mind. Jay Johnstone.
Jerry Kuzman was very good.
Baskets, Michigan leading Virginia 44-25 at halftime. Getting to the Final 4, and that would be the first, the survivor of that game. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oh! 2 balls and 1 strike. Of course, considering what happened to Kirk Gibson last year, I guess you'd have to say Jesse Orosco.
Well, if you're going to talk about Hatcher, I guess you're going to have to talk about Orosco. I think it did turn. Lasorda even talked about it in the interview down in the dugout. I mean, he must think it's great. Somebody pull a jerk on Gibson. That's right. That'll get your team in shape in a hurry.
2 balls and 1 strike to Mickey Hatcher. First and third, 2 out, 4th inning, and the Red Sox leading the Dodgers 2-1. And there goes the runner, the breaking ball strike, a fake at third, and they've got Alfredo hung up. Good play by Cerrone. So one ex-Yankee hangs out another. Oh, what a great fake by Cerrone, because he didn't baby the fake. He really pumped that right arm, and you thought he was throwing to second base, and Alfredo is hung out to dry. Look at that fake. Great. No wonder Alfredo fell to his knees, and the tag from Ed Romero to Cerrone. One X saying hello to another. And at the end of 3.5 innings, it remains 2-1 Red Sox. Meanwhile, it is 2-1 Boston in the 4th inning. Mike Greenwell, Ellis Burks, and then Jim Rice. Check swing, and there'll be a swing charge by Derwin Merrill. And Mike Greenwell can't believe it.
Well, it's only strike 1. I mean, it's spring training, right? Look on the replay. I don't think he went by there. Of course, it is spring training, and he peeled right away. No hesitation down at third, of course, by Merrill.
0-1 the count. Greenwell struck out in the 1st inning. And that's promptly banged into right field for a base hit. So Greenwell opens up the 4th with a single to right. And the batter will be Ellis Burks.
He does have just a beautiful swing. One of the things that's going to be interesting to find out, here's an example of that swing. Nice and level, head right down on contact. That's how Walt Rainiac would teach hitting. Head up at the beginning, down at contact. And it'll be interesting to see how Walt Rainiac's departure affects Mike Greenwell, how it affects Ellis Burks.
How will it affect Rich Gedman?
That's right, Rich Gedman. You know, this is one of the things. He was a very important guy at this ball club. Not everybody liked him. Not everybody. Maybe some people thought his theories were too much stuff. But especially the young guys, the Reed, the Burks, and the Greenwell, how will they adjust to the absence of Walt Rainiac? And time will tell.
Ellis Burks popped up in the second inning. 2-1 in favor of the Red Sox. 2 runs, 5 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 3 hits. Burks followed by Rice. I was watching when Greenwell showed his annoyance with Durwood Merrill. And as we get closer and closer to opening day, you notice players arguing more. It's as if they realize that things are becoming more important as we get close to opening day. And it's reflected with, 3 fights we've had now. The Mets in Toronto, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Seattle, Milwaukee, bench clearing, brawls.
I'm not crazy about seeing that. Certainly the emotional level is coming up. It's very rare that you would see things like that in spring training. I remember in the old days, you wouldn't see them in spring training.
You know,
this didn't happen in spring training.
One thing I remember in a spring training game years ago, arguing with an umpire, Frank Dascoli, and he cleared the bench. He sent everyone not in the game back to the clubhouse. And it was an exhibition game, foul ball. And after the game, we were asking him, why would you do that? Why would you be so tough on it? He said, because it's a National League team. I'm going to see them during the summer. I don't want them to get bad habits and think they can get away with anything.
That makes sense.
Can you imagine?
No.
1-2 to Ellis Burks. 2-1 Boston in the 4th inning.
Boston, of course, got off to a horrible start, 3-11 in spring training, but they're 5-3 in their last 8. Talked a little bit about the start of the show about the emotional. Maybe this team is turning around as far as getting ready to play.
Drive to center. John Shelby on his horse and will make the play. It's about as deep here as in any ballpark anywhere. It's 420 to center, so this is a pitcher's ballpark. And we have 1 down on a long out. Of course, in talking about Boston getting its act together, you think of the expression Morgan magic from last year. After the All-Star break, the Sox won 12 in a row. They won 24 straight at home under Joe. And suddenly a big surprise and went on to win the division.
Well, what they also got, too, is Mike Boddicker from the Baltimore Orioles. And Larry Parrish came over and supplied some right-handed power last year. That really helped Joe Morgan. And one of the biggest things is he put Reed in at shortstop and sat Spike Owen down. And he gave this guy less playing time last year. Jim Rice, as you mentioned earlier, that hinted that maybe they're trying to shove Rice out of the way, and he's trying to push himself right back in the picture with the spring numbers that he had. Last spring, he led the ball club in RBIs, led him in the offensive categories, and this year, I mean, he's light years ahead of everybody.
0-1, the count to Jim Rice. Flied to right field in the second inning, 0 for 1. You know, the thing I really liked about Joe Morgan, and from that moment, I mean, I just had to really root for him. We were interviewing him up in Boston, and you mentioned how he played Jody Reed over Spike Owen, and there were people saying, boy, what a whiz to do that. Morgan said that John McNamara was going to play Reed at shortstop over Owen, and he specifically made sure so that he didn't want you to think he was a genius, and he said John was going to do it, and when he wasn't there, I did it. You have to be a good man to do that. A drive to center, and Shelby again going to the fence at the track and at the wall to make the catch, and they're hitting some taters against Leary. Long outs by Burks and Rice to the graveyard in center.
Good play in center field on Shelby. Good contact by Jim Rice, who has been hitting the ball hard all spring. Good play by Shelby in center field.
This is a ballpark where you can really go and get him, as we pointed out and showed you the dimensions of the ballpark.
Rice is just crushing the ball. and has been all spring. Talked to Dwight Evans about him. He said he's getting his base hits, and he's not getting a lot of the dunkers. He feels his bat speed has improved, and he's hitting the ball hard all the time. Driving the ball
Does that
like
mean
Jim
something,
Rice.
though, this time of year, spring training? Does it mean something to you?
I think it's going to mean something to Jim Rice, certainly.
A strike at the plate, and they nail him easily. The tag provided by Willie Randolph. So Greenwell is thrown out. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. At the end of 4, 2-1 Boston. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
This Game of the Week special edition is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet, and by GMAC, the official sponsor of America's Dreams.
We're going to the 5th inning, Chain of Lakes Park in Winter Haven. The Boston Red Sox leading the Dodgers 2-1. And in the 5th, it'll be Hatcher, Gwynn, and Woodson. And Dennis Oil Can Boyd, who's allowed just a couple of hits and 1 run. Home run to Socia, ready to go to work. And work it is as Hatcher greets him. So that's the 3rd hit. Remember, the Dodgers had 2 hits in the 4th inning, but Alfredo Griffin was nailed between 3rd and home. A moment ago, the Red Sox hit a couple of long outs to center, Burks and Rice, and we pointed out that it was 420 to straightaway center. And perhaps we should also put an asterisk and a footnote that it is no accident. In one area in center field at Fenway Park, it's 390, but the deepest point in center field at Fenway is 420. Fly ball to straightaway center, and Ellis Burks is there. So Gwynn, first ball swinging, 1 away. Tracy Woodson, the batter. Not a bad idea, first ball swinging against Oil Can, who has walked 1 and has been right around the plate.
He has always shown excellent control. Always through his career. He's a phenomenal pitcher. You can get him in the hole, let's say 2 balls and no strikes or 3 balls and 1 strike. And most pitchers, a hitter could almost tell what's coming. Oil Can,
no way.
Got about 5 pitches he could throw at that point and get them all over for strikes.
For Tracy Woodson, he struck out in the 3rd inning, 0 for 1. Joe Morgan was saying before the game he would like to get 6 innings from Boyd, but he would also have his fingers crossed that a clock then wouldn't pop up after it. That's the main concern down here right now. Obviously, he looks good and feels good. No balls and 1 strike. That's hit to center, but it's starting to fade just a wee bit, and Burks handles it easily. 2 down. Now Mike Socia coming up. He hit a home run in the 3rd inning. When you were pitching for a living, were you an eye-catching pitcher in spring training, or were you kind of so-so and working your way along? Or did you have a pattern? Were you very good in the early going? Some fellas are. Or
you kind of, I think as a rule, you're power pitchers, and you wouldn't categorize Oil Can Boyd as a power pitcher. Everybody's swinging at the first pitch. I know that.
Bad hop, and that carries to center. Burks is gone to 3rd with the throw, not in time, as Hatcher, with his landing gear down, beats it. It should have been the 3rd out. That ball just kangarooed over the head of Jody Reed. So 1st and 3rd with 2 out.
The Dodgers continuing to swing at the first pitch off Oil Can Boyd, and Socia hits this ball sharply right up the middle. Reed had a good play, but a bad hop turns it into probably what's going to be a single. Last time up, Socia hits a home run. And the Dodgers showing some tremendous aggressiveness on the base pass. And poor Mickey Hatcher has been all over on this field, offensively and defensively as well. And there a belly flap slide into 3rd.
We were talking about Hatcher and how so many Dodgers have been out with the flu. Today, they're minus Tim Cruz and Jay Howell, the pitchers. Infielders Mike Sharperson and Franklin Stubbs. Outfielder Mike Marshall and Joe Ferguson. Kirk Gibson has had the flu. Hatcher is just coming back from it, and he's been on his knees more than standing erect. 1-0. Watch Hatcher now going to try and take the base on Burks.
Do you think Joey Amalfitano at third was telling him to get down, or is he praying over there?
Both. So Hatcher, who gets dirty.
And he's not going to wipe it off either, is he?
No, the badge of courage. 2-0 the count. Randolph is grounded out and walked 0 for 1. 2-0. Ball 3. And McCann now a little annoyed about what's going on. That bad hop ruined the inning for him. He should have been out of it. Reno. Down the pipe. 3-1. McCann is 6'1" and listed at 160, and it is a fine 160. He looks like a graphite shaft out there. Not an ounce of extra muscle or flat. High chopper, and it'll be a tough play for Romero. Short hops, can't do it. Reed does. Too late, and the run is in. So Jody Reed backing up the charging Romero, still couldn't get him, and it's a 2-2 tie. Infield single.
Willie Randolph got oil can in the hole. Randolph, a very patient hitter, got it down to 3-0, took a strike, was hitting to 3-1, and then simply beat it into the ground. Reed almost got him. That was a good play, cutting in behind Romero. Watch Reed come in behind Romero, barehanded, and make the off-balance throw. Almost got him.
Yeah,
that was a fine play by Reed.
However, not enough. So in the inning, you've had 3 singles, one of them a bad hop. And here's Alfredo, first ball swinging, and he's going to pay a price for it. Osaski in foul ground puts it away. So Oil Can, who should have been out of the inning without giving up anything, gives up a run, and we're all even 2-2. Middle of the 5th.
And with me is Red Sox left fielder Mike Greenwell, and I guess but for Jose Canseco, the man who would have been the American League MVP, you have taken over the mantle in left field, which is a pretty good history attached to it. Why do you think you've been able to have such an impact so early on in your career?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was I was successful right away in the big leagues. My first 3 hits in the big leagues were home runs. That gave me a lot of confidence, and I knew I had big shoes to fill when I went out and played left field, but I'm the type of player that likes to play under that pressure, and that's why I'm a number 4 hitter, even though I don't hit 35 or 40 home runs, is because they know I like to play under pressure, and I've been successful under pressure, and it's a lot of fun carrying on the tradition, and hopefully someday people will say that Mike Greenwell was the 4th outfielder in maybe 50 years.
You made a pretty firm stand earlier this year in the offseason in terms of your contract negotiations. Can you talk about that and what you felt you were not being given that you wanted and how it was resolved?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I felt that my contract was going to affect a lot of players, a lot of young players in the game, and I had to go in there and get a fair contract. And I felt that I had showed the Red Sox that I was a consistent player and that I deserved at least a 2-year deal. We talked about a 3-year deal, but we were pretty far apart on that, so we agreed we would at least talk about a 2-year deal. They kept referring back to a 1-year deal, and finally we were able to settle on a 2-year deal, and I'm all excited about it and happy about it, and I think they are too, and now I can concentrate on playing baseball.
What do you think is going to be the important thing for this team in terms of getting over all of the turmoil that has taken place this spring and all of the problems this team has had?
I think the biggest thing for us is we just got to come together as a club and respect each other for what we are. We're baseball players, we're teammates, and we have to go out and play like that and not worry about everybody's personal life. We have a hole to fill when we lost Bruce Hurst. There's no doubt about that. We need someone to step up and have a big year. We need Olcan or Dobson or Gardner to come in and have a big year for us. Someone's got to fill that hole. If someone can do that, this team can win because the talent's here to do it.
Can you fill that hole?
Well, I hope so. I think that I think it's there. It's just a matter of someone stepping in and doing it. And we got the best hitting team in baseball, I feel, and it's just a matter of pitching. It all comes down to pitching.
Mike Greenwell, thank you very much for stopping by. Let's go back to Vin Scully. Vin?
Okay, Gail, in a 2-2 tie, bottom of the 5th inning, 1 away. Osaski flying to right, and Rick Cerrone, the catcher, who put on such a great fake throwing the ball to second base and then nailed Alfredo Griffin, who committed on the fake. That's the best defensive play I think we've seen in the spring.
Outstanding. One of the things that Mike Greenwell said there, I hope they're not thinking about making him a pitcher. He said the Red Sox need pitching. Filling the hole. I hope they're going to leave him out there in left field. Wow.
High drive to left field, and Mike Davis going back to the track and will make the play. 2 down. Leary is working on his pitches, but it is not really an impressive outing. In talking about Leary, as we did with Oil Can Boyd, he started out pitching 3 innings, then he extended to 4, then he went to 5, and his last start he went 6 innings and gave up 7 hits. The big thing about Tim, he has had 2 strikeouts, and he has already made 70 pitches, so it's a good workout, but it is not a particularly impressive pitch, and that's the split finger. You see the bottom drop out of that pitch? That's what makes it so tough.
Straight down. 2 strikeouts and no walks. That's another thing that Ron Peronowski, the pitching coach of the Dodgers, will be looking for. No walks today.
On the outside corner, strike 2. Here's what it looks like. Watch this thing. The split-fingered fastball.
Picture is worth 1,000 words right there, isn't it? There's nothing I could add to that. The ball just seems to disappear and go straight down.
1-2. A 2-2 tie, bottom of the 5th inning. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 5 hits for Boston. Their only spring training meeting of the year. 2-2.
Leary, of course, would be the number 2 or number 3 pitcher on this Dodger staff this year, depending on how things break. It's an outstanding staff. Led the National League last year. They are right behind the New York Mets, but they were just superb. They led the National League with 24 shutouts. Scored Hershiser had 8 of them. Leary had 6 of them.
Quite a pitcher. Fouled away. You have Hershiser, Leary, and Belcher. Fernando Valenzuela, and then the 5th pitcher, right now anyway, would be either Ramon Martinez, a youngster from the Dominican, or Mike Morgan, whom they just recently acquired. That's Ron Peronowski wearing the shades, the sunglasses.
One of the things, Benny, one of the things that a pitching coach will have to do in spring training, Ron Peronowski will be working with Tommy Lasorda on that pitching staff. You mentioned Hershiser, Larry Belcher, Valenzuela. Other pitchers in the Dodgers that will probably make that club are Pinion, Howell, Cruz, Ricky Portnoy. And that 10th spot is what some of the others are working for.
A little pop fly and a trio of Dodgers. It'll be Gwynn, the right fielder. A lot of fly balls. That's 5 in a row. Fly balls from Leary, but he's got the side down at the end of 5, a 2-2 tie. Can Tom Kite do what has not been done in 10 years, win 3 straight PGA tournaments? Well, Kite, who won the Nestle Invitational and the Players, is certainly within striking distance of the lead held by Tim Simpson and Dan Forsman. So we'll find out about Saturday's round today, 4:30 Eastern Time. At 6 feet 8, he's pretty easy to spot. Mike Smithson, 9-game winner last year, tuning up in the bullpen, so this might be Oil Can Boyd's last inning of work. The Can has walked just 1 while striking out 2 and should be leading, except for a bad hop single that scrambled his eggs in the 5th inning. Mike Davis, ball 1, fouled out and flied to right, 0 for 2. Davis is coming off the flu and coming off a bad year. Bangs it to right. Evans coming up to play it on a hop. So Davis is single to right field. You know, when we talk about, let's say, Alfredo Griffin hitting 190 and Mike Davis hitting 190, immediately most of us say, well, coming to a new league, tough to learn the pitching. Is it that tough?
Well, I can understand Alfredo Griffin being hurt.
Oh, yeah,
hurt
that's
hand,
good. But he was hitting 190 before he got hurt.
You know, he kept it up then.
Yeah.
That's a new league it should not be that tough. Although for some people who are, let's say, guess hitters, will guess with pitchers and go with tendencies, coming in and trying to learn somebody's tendencies, and other pitchers have an entire league of tendencies, what they will throw in certain situations, could be very tough.
Now, for instance, would Eddie Murray have a difficult transition going from the American League to the
I just couldn't believe it would happen with a guy there of his ability. There's just no way. He's just too good a hitter, and his track record is too good with all the outstanding years that he had in Baltimore.
Foul back, 1 ball and 1 strike.
And he's going to be happy here too. Then I mean, he was in a club that You know, it was a rebuilding phase, and you know, making a lot of money. He had to go. It was time for him to go. It was the best thing for him. It was the best thing for the Baltimore Orioles organization to get rid of the salary that they would have had to pay him. Best thing for this Los Angeles Dodger team, sticking him in the middle of the lineup.
And remember last year with Baltimore, the last, whatever period of time it was, it got so bad that Eddie didn't play at home.
And that's not Eddie. And that's not the kind of competitor that he has been through the years either. He has been an outstanding player for a long period of time.
Foul that away. Jim Traber, who's playing a lot of first base for Baltimore now. Traber played the last 50-some-odd games when Baltimore was at home. That's a real tough burden, where you can't play a star like this in your own ballpark.
No, you go down and you look at Eddie Murray's games played. And in '87, he played 160 times. The year before that, 137, then 156, 162, 156. You know, he played all the time. His at-bats, he's at 588, 583, 582, 550, 600, 610. I mean, he's an everyday player.
Yeah.
He's a gamer. He's a guy that wants to be on the field.
He's from Southern California, so he's really come home now, and that's going to really help him. 1-2. Foul back. Pretty good pitch. Off speed by Alcan, and Murray was out in front of him.
That's how you pitch him, left-handed as well. You don't realize how big Eddie Murray is. And here's a good shot of the off-speed. Get Eddie Murray out on that front pitch. You see him hitting out on that front foot. Just a little bit off balance, but still a pretty good stroke trying to take that ball to left field. You don't realize how big he is.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
6'2", weighs about 225 pounds. He's a big man. I think that 6'2" is wrong. He's more.
I think he's taller than
6'4", yeah. He is a big man.
How he was trying to take him to left field. Part of the book in the American League was, whatever you do, don't get that ball up and away when he's left-handed. He can hit the ball out of sight to left center field. 1 ball and 2 strikes, Eddie Murray. Fouled away.
Being defensive, well, Candace keeps making good pitches, and Eddie is not giving in. Eddie's not trying to pull that ball. Well, Can making good pitches down and away. If Murray would try to pull it, he did a ground ball to second base, something he tries not to do. And he's trying to hit the ball into the hole between Romero and Reed on the left side. Well, Can keeps throwing the ball out there. That's exactly what he's trying to do, is hit the ball over in that big hole on the left side of the diamond.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Mike Davis at first, 6th inning of a 2-2 tie. And this time he got under it and popped it up, and it'll be the shortstop, Jody Reed. So Murray pops it up. He's 0 for 3. Davis holding at first, and John Shelby will be the batter. John Shelby flied to left, single to center. 1 for 2.
We talked the last half of the inning, Benny, about the Dodger pitching staff for the year. The Red Sox are really pretty set. You go down their list of players: Clemens, Boddicker, Gardner, who Bill Fisher says has been throwing just super for the Red Sox, Boyd, Dobson, then you got Stanley, Smith, and Lamp, Big Lee Smith in the bullpen, and Murphy. They really have 10 pitchers they're ready to go with, and they're nobody fighting for a spot on that staff.
Interestingly enough.
Unless there's a trade.
Right.
Unless. That's the hook. That's right.
Because
5 starting pitchers.
The one thing Joe would like to have would be another left-hander. After all, they lost a great one in Bruce Hurst.
Their starters who they are counting on are all right-handed. They certainly could use a left-hander.
He has Rob Murphy.
I agree with him, though. I said if you've got 5 good pitchers, doesn't make a difference if they're right or left-hand. Good pitchers can get good hitters out if they are exceptional quality.
0-1. I can't tell you their names, but I remember one year the Cincinnati Reds had 5 pitchers whom they started. They were all left-handed. All left-handed starters. Now that's a one for the books.
Jim O'Toole and that group, or no? Before that?
I think it was before that. 1 ball and 1 strike. Off the glove of the Can, but right there to Reed, who made the tag. Oh, what quick hands. A throw to first not in time. What a great tag by Jody Reed on Mike Davis going by, and the crowd applauding the effort.
The composure on this play by Reed is the thing that impresses me. Oilcan thought he had that ball. Looked like it was right in his glove, but look at, steps on the back and just waits for the runner and made sure, the biggest thing, total composure, and made sure that he got out of the runner. Got the one out. The biggest thing on the double play is get one out. A lot of times players, infielders get too greedy, want to get both out. You've got to make sure that you get the one out. That doesn't make a difference if you're playing Little League Baseball or Major Leagues.
There goes Shelby, and he has stolen it. So John Shelby stealing second, and with 2 down, Shelby out there, and Hatcher trying to pick him up. Take another look. When Rich Gedman is catching, they have a very good arm behind the plate. The Red Sox are not that famous for pitchers who do a great job of holding runners on. So during the course of the year, Gedman figures to catch most of the time anyway. No balls and 1 strike. The count to Mickey Hatcher. Good pitch. 0-2. Oilcan Boyd, we assume, is finishing up. This should be his last inning of work, and he's been very impressive. Watch this one. We showed you Leary in the bottom dropping out. Look at this dude.
Now that could be forked ball, or that could be the curveball. And he's got pitches that'll go down. He's got pitches that'll come into your hand. He's got pitches that'll sail away. And he's not afraid to use any of them at any time.
No balls, 2 strikes. And he takes care of them with a couple. That's the 3rd strikeout for the Can. No runs, 1 hit. A runner left at second. And at the end of 5 1/2, a 2-2 tie. Oilcan Boyd leaving the field. The crowd say goodbye to him. He had a good workout. He went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs and 7 hits. And considering the fact that he came in here with a pretty raggedy spring training effort, that was a good outing, and that just happened a few moments ago. And now Tim Leary is ready to go to work to Jody Reed, Marty Barrett, and then Dwight Evans. So, Tom, as you were saying at the start of the game and early, this is the time to get your act together. And the Can, who came in with an ERA of over 7, he had allowed 19 hits in 13 innings, but he started to pitch well today. However, he gave up the home run ball, and that always is a bother to him. 25 of them last year.
I think the biggest thing is that he got his work in, and he was fairly consistent, and his control was good. He's had the last couple outings of pitching 5 innings or so. Bill Fisher was very satisfied with 1 outing. Another one, so-so. Of course, Bill Fisher, the pitching coach. And you could see, as Oilcan left, a big smile on his face. He knows he got his 6 innings in, and this, as I said before, this club needs him. And they need him badly since Bruce Hurst is gone. They'd like to get him back to that 1985, 1986 era when he was pitching 250, 207 innings a year.
Off-balance throw by Alfredo is over the head of a leaping Hatcher, backed up by Mike Scioscia. And going in with a slide is Jody Reed with an infield single. Griffin going deep in the hole, didn't have much of a chance to get him. And for Jody Reed, he's 2 for 3. As far as the Sox are concerned, they have 2 runs and 6 hits against Tim Leary. Spring training effort, a slide. No doubt about it, the competitive juices now are starting to flow as we get closer and closer to opening day. We were talking before about bench clearing brawls and umpires chasing entire teams from dugouts except those actively involved in the game. Did you ever get involved in anything in spring training that comes to mind as that? As far as arguments, fights?
Arguments were never in spring training, it didn't seem. I went 20 years and never got ejected from a ball game. I never got thrown out. Pitching for 20 years. Actually, spring training, I was Paul Runge, fine umpire in the National League. I had him in a game in St. Petersburg at Al Lang Field one day. And I threw a pitch to him, to the hitter, and the umpire called it, Runge called it a ball. It was clearly a strike. I was dead strike on the outside corner, and I went, what in the world's the matter with that pitch? And I didn't get any response. I said, what in the world? So my voice is going up and up and up. No response, no response. He didn't say a word to me. Wouldn't answer. I said, well, maybe he's hard of hearing. I don't know. Went back to the dugout after I got the third out. He comes over and he looks me right in the eye. He says, doesn't it make sense that when I didn't answer you that I missed the pitch? And I said, enough said.
Thank you very
never
much.
have to talk to me again.
Yeah, the umpires
Tom,
can be
how
rusty
can you
too,
be
right?
so stupid? Keep your mouth closed.
Uh-oh, Michigan ripping up Virginia. 75-45. Got him by 30. Getting very close for Michigan to be the first of the Final Four. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Marty Barrett, the batter. Reed standing at first. Barrett is 2 for 2. He tripled to left center and singled to right, so they could put a play on here easily. They play hit and run. This will be a pretty good combination. Reed's not gone. They play bunt. And committing himself was Hatcher. However, alertly Randolph covered. So it'll be a sacrifice from Leary to Randolph 1-4. Taking second on the play is Jody Reed, and that'll bring up Dwight Evans, who fouled out and struck out. So a couple of fellas from Santa Monica, Tim Leary and Dwight Evans, will go head to head.
Barrett, of course, putting on a perfect sacrifice bunt. He led the American League in sack bunts the last 20. He's led it the last 3 years, and just a little guy that just does the little things that makes you win. Invaluable on a ball club.
Well, Marty Barrett, we talked about earlier, asking for a contract. It'll be his time. Barrett, who picked up for Gary Remy, who retired because of bad knees. And now, apparently on that sacrifice, Reed going down to second. Want to see if he's all right. He's going to out for a pinch running.
He must have shaken himself up. I don't know if he slammed his wrist into the ground or if he got dirt in his eye, or he's talking to the Red Sox trainer there.
Luis Rivera will run for him. See if we can see anything on the replay. There he goes looking back. Now he's into second.
Good bunt. Barrett out at first. Nothing happened. Maybe he's got a tee-off time. Who knows?
Double parked.
Hey, but he did go right to Charlie Moss, the Red Sox trainer, in the dugout. There's Charlie Moss on your left. You can see him talking to Jody Reed. Something must have been wrong. Maybe he has had a slight pull or something somewhere. He doesn't look very happy. It looks like something.
Remember, he made that play in the top of the 6th inning where he got the carom off the glove of Can, made the great tag, and the throw to first. Maybe somewhere along the line there he twisted something, and then running down felt a tightness in the groin area or the hamstring or whatever. And this is the time to get yourself out of there and not be a hero if he felt anything at all. We'll watch him.
As soon as he went around the bag, he pointed back to the dugout, pointed back to Charlie, he pointed back to I got a little indication of something. Yeah, there's the runner. Give me a runner. Yeah. Turn over the hand. Now he's looking at the third base coach. So give me a runner. Ooh, something wrong somewhere, and hopefully we'll be able to get word and get it to you.
Remember, too, that when he had his base hit, he went sliding into first. He could have hurt himself there.
It looked like he was pushing on his left groin area. Maybe hit the bag going around the corner. Maybe it was on that ground ball up the middle.
2-1 the count to Dwight Evans. 2-2. If you were a pitcher and you looked at a hitter like Dwight Evans, the way he toes in, the way he raises his heel, would that tell you anything?
Well, you look at something or something on every hitter, Benny, and this is kind of the Walt Rainiac style of hitting, which is you actually swing up through the strike zone. Depends on what you have to work with. The toes really don't make much difference unless he were moving in the batter's box. But I would like to attack Dwight Evans high. I think he's a better low ball hitter. You'll see that right side go down, and you'll see the bat come up through the strike zone.
Interesting, though, you talk about Walt Rainiac and the fact he wants you to hit up. When Rich Gedman first came into the Red Sox organization, he was a fly ball hitter. And when Rainiac got through with him, he became a ground ball hitter. He changed completely in the other way.
Well, Rainiac, his theory is use the entire ballpark and line drives in the entire ballpark.
3-2. Ground ball hard to short. Griffin holding Rivera and throws out Evans for the second down. We have 2 down in the 6th. A 2-2 tie. And Mike Greenwell coming up.
One of the amazing things when you look at the numbers of Mike Greenwell, 590 at-bats, only 38 strikeouts. Along with the power that he has, third in batting and RBIs and hits and total bases. That's third in each one of them in the American League last year.
How about this? You don't think we're getting close enough to opening day? We're sort of playing this one on national television.
On national television.
This is, I think, the first intentional walk I've seen in a spring training game in a while.
And because it's national television, and Tommy Lasorda knows, nobody knows it better that his ball club is on national television.
So he walks Greenwell, and he'll play right-handed against right-handed. Ellis Burks on deck. Yep, we're getting close. 2 on with 2 out. Understand that earlier this week, Greenwell was walked intentionally by the Detroit Tigers. So all the clubs now are starting to address the problems of strategy.
You know the thing about that, you know who the manager of that ball club is?
George
Sparky Anderson. And you're talking about one of the veterans of that ball club and a veteran manager with the Dodgers. 2 of the old timers saying, heck with it. Getting close. Let's start thinking about winning, boys, and that means walking somebody if we have to.
Ellis Burks popped up fly to center, 0 for 2. Of course, Leary doing something that he would do all season long, so this is the time to do it now. Trying to get out of a jam. Rivera the runner at second, Greenwell at first with 2 down, and Ellis Burks at the plate. Right, 0-1. Leary has allowed 2 runs, 6 hits. He has walked 1, but it was intentionally given. He's been right on the plate. Good control. 2 strikeouts. Ooh. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Leary last year, when he had his pitches working hard, had a high of 12 strikeouts in a game against Montreal. 1-1 to Ellis Burks. Foul ball, 1-2.
One of the things, Vinny, that impressed me about the staff, the Dodger staff, and the Dodger team for that really the pitching staff, but they'd never lost 4 in a row last year. And they had 10 3-game losing streaks, but never did they lose 4 in a row. And that's, of course, there's Oral Hershiser on that ball club and taking his turn, and Belcher and Leary.
Throw down to Hatcher, who's on his knees again for the mandatory 8 count. Bounced up quickly, and it's still 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 out.
He's loving every minute of it.
So Ellis Burks with a big grin on Hatch's face.
Does he love it ever?
Rivera and Greenwell taking their leads with 2 out in the 6th inning. Now Leary does what he didn't want to do. He's going to go all the way. So with 2 down, the runners will be going. So Lasorda, in using the intentional walk in the 6th inning, now sees Leary suddenly go all the way. Did you hate to give up intentional walks?
Depending on who the hitter was. Yeah. Sometimes, especially in this situation with 2 outs, try and find the last out of the inning and then worry about it later. Especially when on base. One thing you have to do, one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, the first out in the inning. Then when you would get to 2 outs, where's your last out in the inning? Where are you going to get your last out, especially with a man in scoring position already? You know, if it means walking a guy and getting a guy, another hitter that you think you got a better chance of getting out, that was fine with me. But now, look at the situation. If he does walk Burks,
then he gets rice. Runners go, and the pitch fouled away. I always had not really a theory because I never sat down with a computer and figured it out. But so often I've seen a pitcher do what he is not trained to do. Purposefully avoid throwing a strike and then immediately has trouble on the next hitter.
That's a mental discipline. A lot of guys couldn't throw, couldn't intentionally walk somebody. Ray Sadecki was a left-hander for the Giants and the Cardinals and the Mets. He couldn't. He had a lot of difficulty walking somebody.
Runners go, foul back again.
Catcher would come out from behind home plate, and Ray was like throwing darts. You didn't know if the ball was going to come all the way back, the backstop or what.
So Tim Leary in a little jam. Jody Reed a single to short. 2 outs later, Rivera running for Reed at second base. The intentional walk to Mike Greenwell. And Leary now in quite a challenge with Ellis Burks. 2 down, full count. Don't know whether Leary plans to work any more than this. He's in his 6th inning in a 2-2 tie. Runners go. Chopper to shortstop. Backing up for the hop is Alfredo. And coming to the plate is Rivera. And he is out at the plate. When Griffin backed up for the hop, he was vulnerable to what he did. He dropped the ball, but he was alert. And as he saw Rivera trying to score, he nailed him as Mike Socha did what he usually does, blocked the plate and kept the runner away. So it's still 2-2 at the end of 6. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Welcome back to Winter Haven, Florida, as we head to the 7th inning, and this is the Executive Vice President of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Sporting News Executive of the Year, Fred Claire. Fred, you ever, during the course of the winter, pop the VCR in, take a look at what took place last year and say, you know, I really don't believe that we did that?
Well, I have popped it in there a few times, and I have believed it. It was a wonderful year for us, and the accomplishments of a lot of people and a lot of people in our organization, and it's a pleasure to look back and see what happened last year, but right now the focus is on 1989 and what we hope to see happen this year.
What is your major concern as you look to 89?
Well, one of the things that slowed us a little bit this spring, and certainly over the past week or so, has been the flu bug that's really hit our ball club. But beyond that, we're looking closely at our pitching, our starting pitching. Fernando had a very good outing yesterday against the Mets. Had good movement on his pitches, and so that was encouraging. Ramon Martinez, we've been keeping a close eye on because he's a young man who can be an important part of our ball club. And also Mike Morgan, who we obtained in a trade this spring, and we want to watch him, see what happens, because I think if our starting pitching is there, I really believe that our ball club will be much improved over what it was last year. With Eddie at first base, Willie Randolph at second, I think we're going to be a better ball club offensively. I think we'll be a better ball club defensively.
And there is stiffer competition this season with the improved San Diego Padres.
No question about that. The Padres are tougher. I think our division overall is going to be much tougher. So even though that I say we're improved, and I feel strongly that we're improved, I also know that the other clubs have gotten better, and our challenge is going to be just as great as it was last year.
Fred, all here with the Dodgers, relatively quiet. You look over to the Red Sox, a different situation. We heard from their GM, Lou Gorman, who was involved with the Wade Boggs trade rumors. How do you look at the Wade Boggs situation? If you were in Gorman's position, do you feel he's disruptive? Would you be trying to deal him somewhere?
Well, I think the thing that we have to look at anytime there's a situation like that is get the attention back to the field. It's not so much the problems that each club faces. The Red Sox may face a problem. Other clubs may face problems from time to time. The Dodgers have faced problems, obviously, from time to time. It's not so much the problem. It's how you handle it and getting the attention back to the field of baseball. And there's several ways to do that, but that's definitely what has to happen, because if the attention of the ball club is in an area or on a focus that is away from the playing field itself, the ball club is going to suffer. So that has to happen, and it can be accomplished in various ways.
I would think it'd be difficult to make a deal at this time where it involves a player like Wade Boggs?
I think the possibility is there. There are some clubs that are looking to make movements right at this time. There's a lot of conversation taking place at this time because as we narrow down to the last week and rosters take shape and clubs say, well, maybe this guy didn't come along quite as well or we need to make this change. I really believe that over the next week, we'll see a number of changes take place in baseball.
Okay, Fred Clare, the executive of the year last season. Let's get back to Vin and Tom.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have 2 out in the 7th. Mike Socia, the hitter, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. And that's hit just foul down the right field line out of play. So we have a chance to show you Mike Smithson. And the first thing, notice that number, 41. The last man to wear it is here in the booth.
Yes, number 41.
Of course, your jersey wasn't quite as big as that 41.
That's a big
He's
man
6'8".
right there. That's right. He is a big man, big tall man. Comes from the side and good sinker baller. Middle reliever for the Boston Red Sox.
Off speed and the count 2-2. The Dodgers recently saw the tallest pitcher in Major League history. It's a left-hander with Montreal, Randy Johnson, who is 6'10". And Mike is 6'8". And as you can well imagine, a basketball star at the University of Tennessee.
One of the things when you look at his numbers, an ERA of 5.65. Well, it's spring training, but innings pitched 14.1, base hits 22. That's a big number. That's a big jump. You don't like to see that.
Last year, he had a particular gem where he struck out 9, and yet he lost the game. And in 6 innings, he allowed 8 hits. So apparently he's fighting that all the time. That's popped up into shallow left. Rivera going out. Left fielder Greenwell is right there. And the Dodgers tiptoe through the top of the 7th inning. And at the end of 6 1/2, the Dodgers 2 and the Red Sox 2.
Without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. In a 2-2 tie, the Dodgers make 2 changes. Darren Fletcher takes over behind the plate. And in right field, Jose Gonzalez. So there's Darren Fletcher and there's Jose. Jim Rice, Nick Asaski, and then Rick Cerrone. Bottom of the 7th. And the big story right now, Tim Leary, working his 7th inning in the game. Leary has allowed 2 runs, 8 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, getting in a lot of work today before the largest crowd of the year here at Chain of Lakes. They've averaged a little over 4,000, and today 5,216. Ground ball to third. Woodson kind of cranks up to throw out Rice. 1 down. You know, Tom, you always had the best mechanics, I think, of almost any pitcher I've ever seen. It appeared as if you would never have a sore arm, and your career showed that you were indeed durable. Did you have any aches and pains in spring training? Did you ever have a tired arm, a dead arm, the things that they talk about?
Always seemed to be something wrong periodically. I mean, it's impossible for a player to go through a career and not have injuries, not have sprains. There's a routine ground ball to Griffin was short. And that's what spring training is for, and you have them during the season as well. The thing is that you have to be able to perform with them, be able to recognize when you do have some limitations and not try to go beyond what your body is going to let you. I mean, just because, you know, Roger Clemens, let's say, because he doesn't have a 95-mile-an-hour fastball because his shoulder's a little bit sore, does not mean that Roger Clemens could not be an effective pitcher. It's how you utilize what you have to work with. That's the mark between the real good pro and just the everyday professional. Utilizing those strengths that you have on that particular day.
A blowout as Michigan took care of Virginia. Beat them by 37, 102-65. So Michigan becomes the first of the Final Four. Not much of a contest there. One other thing in talking about stuff and about someone like Clemens. If you had 10 starts to make, what would be the percentage of the times that you would go out there and have really good stuff in 10 starts? 5, 6, 7?
Depending on what stage of the career, maybe about 5 or so.
The Sox have been rung out in the 7th, and at the end of 7, it remains a 2-2 tie. Baseball, the 3rd round of the USF&G Classic. From Louisiana, English turn. It's Willie Randolph's turn. And that's a strike. 0-1 to count. Randolph grounded out, walked, and singled. Randolph, Griffin, and Davis, and if anybody gets aboard, the designated hitter, Eddie Murray. Red Sox scored in the 1st inning on a triple by Barrett. Socia homered in the 3rd. Red Sox forged ahead with a run in the bottom of the 3rd on a couple of base hits and a stolen base. The Dodgers tied it in the 5th on 3 singles. Bob Stanley is throwing behind Mike Smithson in the Boston bullpen. 0-2 to Willie Randolph. Oh, what a pitch. When you're 6'8" and you're hitting, I guess you would expect everything that Smithson throws at the speed of light. But that time he just took a little off and Randolph way out in front.
Especially if you're a right-hand hitter and he's dropping down from the side there. It looks like just a palm ball, and there's a lot of arm motion, and instead of the ball being 85 or 88 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour, it's about 10 miles an hour left. There's Oil Can running in after a day's work. He's got to be very happy.
When you weigh 160 and you work 6 innings, he's not really running to lose any weight, but to get those legs stronger and stronger. Fouled away. I don't think people realize, unless they've tried it, the tremendous strain on your legs and thighs and groin area pitching from a mound. Never mind pitching in the big league game anywhere at all. You get bow-legged in a couple of minutes.
Well, if you're going to pitch in the big leagues and pitch a number of innings and pitch a number of innings for a lot of years, you've got to find some other muscles other than the small muscles of the shoulder and the arm to absorb the strain. The biggest muscles in the body are, you know, your rear end and your thighs, your legs. That's in your upper back. That's where the biggest muscles are.
1 ball and 2 strikes to count, and that's hit down the left field line, foul and out of play. You never know how many innings will get you to the breaking point. In other words, you don't know until the fella injures himself.
Right.
And then right away you say, uh-oh, he pitched too many innings.
Right. You don't know that. If we had a crystal ball and could project and say, listen, we can't pitch this guy over 150 innings or 170 innings. You know, you just have to go and experience and what the old timers say and what they've seen through the years.
Rivera makes a nice play on Alfredo Griffin. Good play by Luis Rivera. And a good stretch at the other end of it by Nick Asaski. Rivera finishing up for Jody Reed.
Good play in the hole by Rivera. Good strong throw. Good stretch by Asaski. Good play. Good plays here in spring training. You can see the quality of play as you go through the spring. It's better and better. It's the quality of play in the games in the last week or so. Certainly much better than it was in the first weeks of spring training.
What the Red Sox are hoping, too, is to have a regular first baseman. If you exclude Bill Buckner. You know, they had Todd Benzinger and Dwight Evans try first base. But they really haven't had a regular first baseman day in and day out, excluding Buckner, since George Scott. That ball is hit foul down the left field line and out of play. And they are hoping that Asaski is the ticket. Watch that stretch now by Big Nick. Like a pair of scissors opening up. And kind of gutsy because he had to go into the runner.
Now, you know Johnny Bench real well. You know how big his hands are. Now, Nick Asaski has sort of the biggest hands, I think, of any major leaguer I've ever seen. Did you shake hands with that young man down there? And I played with him when I was in Cincinnati. Huge hands. He has great, big, strong hands. He could find it very comfortable in Fenway Park.
Gil Hodges, the great Dodger first baseman, had big hands. Sandy Koufax had the biggest fingers, I think. He had fingers like bananas. Pop fly wide of third, and Romero takes care of that. The Dodgers are done at the end of 7 1/2, and Nick Ossowski's stretch had a great deal to do with it, and we're still locked in at 2-2. Piloting the MetLife blimp for today's game, Captain Mike Fitzpatrick from Newport, Rhode Island. Taking over for the Dodgers as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning in a 2-2 tie, Ray Searage, a left-hander from Freeport, New York. 6'1", 180-pounder. And you talk about spring training or just baseball, and the Searage story is one that makes you pay attention. First of all, here's a fellow who will be 34 the 1st of May, has been pitching professionally since 1976, and has accumulated 3 years of big league experience. Another way, a lot of bus rides and a lot of scrambling, trying to make some money. Now he's trying to make the ball club. The Dodgers have Ricky Horton and Ray Searage, and of course they need a left-handed relief pitcher, a strong one, and they're tough to come by. 1 ball, no strikes. In there, 1-1. Searage pitched briefly with the White Sox, a couple of years with Milwaukee, and originally started in the Mets organization. 1-1. So the game, sooner or later, boils down to pitching. In fact, to go way back with Searage, he was originally selected by the St. Louis Cardinals. Pitching, and more pitching on a team that is spearheaded by Oral Hershiser. Did you see much of Hershiser last year? He's quite a pitcher.
Well, I tell you, that second game I was at the World Series at Dodger Stadium. That second game when Oral pitched out there is one of the finest pitched games I have ever seen. I mean, I was duly impressed with just about everything that young man was doing out there.
Of course, it's very tough, and you would know that feeling when you've had an incredible year. You're almost fighting your own image and shadow the next year to repeat. Fly ball to right field. Gonzalez crossing the line. 1 away. Did you ever feel you were competing with your own reputation when you went to the mound?
Well, I think you compete with your own demands you put on yourself. You put demands on yourself for consistency. I think you have to be realistic to realize that you cannot put the same numbers on the board every time, but you can put the same kind of effort, and you can get the same kind of concentration and discipline on the board every time. And Oral Hershiser, an intelligent young man, has got that figured out. Said, listen, I may not have the numbers the same next year, but you're going to get the same kind of effort and the same kind of dedication that I had last season.
Fly ball to left center, and that's put away by John Shelby. 2 down. I'm sure you understand in spring training, especially if you are the road team, you don't bring your entire complement. So people like Oral Hershiser and Fernando Valenzuela, who just worked recently, did not make the trip by bus. The 2-hour bus ride from Vero Beach to Winter Haven.
The amazing thing about the Dodger pitching staff, the great year that they had last year, they did it for all intents and purposes without Fernando.
Fernando pitched yesterday, and they were quite happy with his progress, especially in compared to the time previously where he was not effective at all. Basically what Fernando did, he stretched the covering over the joint in his shoulder, probably from all the innings that he pitched. And as happens with the human body, when you injure an area, the muscles around that injured area tense up to protect it. So it's as if you are hanging from a ledge. Your arm muscles would tighten up, and then eventually out of sheer exhaustion you'd have to let go. So Fernando's muscles, in trying to protect the stretched covering, they tensed up and then let go from sheer exhaustion. So the first thing they did, they said no pitching, and that allowed the capsule to come back to shape. Then they gave him a series of extensive exercises to bring those muscles back, and now they hope he's on his way. That's straight at Shelby, and it's an easy inning for Ray Searage. He sets the Sox down on fly balls, and at the end of 8, we have a good one. It's spring training, but it's a 2-2 tie. Steve Ellsworth.
And you look at
press guy to the Boston Red Sox, hometown Fresno, California, where I was born and raised. And his father, Dick Ellsworth, outstanding left-hander for the Chicago Cubs. And listen to this. Dick Ellsworth went to Fresno High School. You know who the catcher was on Dick Ellsworth's high school team?
No.
Pat Corrales.
Oh, sure.
Do you know who the shortstop was? Jim Maloney.
Wow, a great pitcher.
On one high school team.
You know,
they made Maloney play shortstop because he threw too hard. They afraid he was going to hurt somebody.
I was just going to say, Jim Maloney's one of the hardest throwing right-handers I ever saw. Check swing foul outside of third. Bob Stanley is out on the mound now for the Sox. So the big guy picking up for an even bigger guy, Mike Smithson. And here is Stanley, who is 6'4", 225. The Steamer. Then immediately having had his pitching, Mike Smithson joins Oil Can Boyd running in the outfield. You remember that year? I guess the league president or the commissioner issued the bulletin that in spring training they did not want people running in the outfield. It took away from the games.
I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, they did.
I couldn't believe that.
Yep.
It's all part of it.
Check swing and a pop fly, and going out to get it is Marty Barrett.
It all adds to the whole ambiance of what spring training's about.
Right.
The beauty of it, the pitchers running in the outfield, the relaxation of it.
Well, the collision of philosophy was, as you say, why not? And yet I think the feeling in those days was, no. These people are paying money to come in and see a ball game, and we don't want the field cluttered with pitchers running. And eventually they opted, okay, it's all right.
One of the things that people do here also, they go down to the batting cages and watch hitters when they're working. While the game's going on, there's guys in the batting cage someplace a lot of times taking extra hitting, guys hitting off of tees, hitting tees. Other things going on here in spring training as opposed, there's a whole complex.
Look at that.
You've got infield practice go along, and also remember earlier in spring training, you have all the kids, you have the whole roster here, plus the non-roster invitees. You can have as many as 60 players in camp, plus the assistant coaches, etc., and the managers or whatever. You'd have all kinds of people here. So there's a lot going on in spring training. It's not just the ball game.
One of the things going on, big league clubs, franchises moving from one Florida city to another, all because they all want complexes. They want land. A drive to center. Ellis Burks is there. The latest team to say they're packing up and leaving would be Minnesota. They've been in Orlando playing at Tinker Field for 50-some-odd years, and they're going to move to Fort Myers. They want land. They want, as we just saw here, 6 or 7 fields and etc. The Mets moved from St. Petersburg to Port St. Lucie. They have a magnificent
Everybody
complex.
raves about that place
over
there.
In fact, the Mets not only have all those fields like you see here, they have one field with an AstroTurf infield, which is smart to have.
I stopped yesterday in Plant City to see the Boston Red Sox and the Reds play. As I said, they got him in a rundown.
And poor Hatcher is on his knees again. Watch him now. He'll round the bag. But as we've said, they're getting closer and closer to sharpening up. And he's going to be cut by the edge and nailed at first by Yasowski. He has taken the mandatory count all day. Still 2-2. Coming up next, third round coverage of the USF&G Golf Classic. Last we knew, Tim Simpson and Dan Forsman were tied. Greg Norman was right there. Tom Kite was in contention, and Kite trying to make it 3 straight. That'll be right after baseball. Evans, Greenwell, and Burke. So front line hitting coming up. And Ray Searage trying to hold them quiet in the bottom of the 9th. Now this is a pretty important outing for Ray Searage. A guy trying to make the club. We're running out of March. And he will be battle tested right now. 1-1.
And he has been sick. Ron Peronowski talking to him before the game. Doesn't look like he'll have a spot on the roster. But you never know. Injuries, you never know. Could make the trip back to the big leagues.
Big chopper foul. And of course, the thing in his favor, he's left-handed.
It is.
People that aren't in baseball or really may not understand baseball do not understand how important that is, being left-handed. I mean, just finding good, solid, healthy left-handers is just like finding a jewel.
In some respects, the Dodgers have never really recovered from the loss of Steve Howe. Tough play. That's a big kangaroo bounce, and Griffin got him barehanded and threw in one motion. The one fortunate thing for Alfredo, that the bounce came up. If it stayed down, he couldn't have gotten him. Fine play.
You either go one way, that ball hits right down in front of home plate. One of the magical things that happens at the ballpark is plays like that. You know how a little guy can be running across the infield at full speed, bare hand, maintain the balance, and make a perfect strike to first base. It makes it look so easy.
Here's a drive to right. Back for it is Gonzalez to handle it. So 2 down in the 9th inning. And the batter will be Ellis Burks.
I used to love to go into the ballpark and take ground balls at shortstop and go in the hole and try and throw the ball. And, you know, they'd never get a coach to hit to me. They're afraid I was going to break my fingers or something. And I said, come on, I got to do some work here. One of the most enjoyable things is doing things like that. And then you see a play that Griffin makes. Hey, I have an understanding of how difficult it is just taking simple ground balls, how tough it is. And these guys make these plays look so easy.
0-1. You, as a restless pitcher taking infield, probably the most restless pitcher I ever saw was the great Warren Spahn. And one reason he never had a sore arm, because he was always throwing the ball. He never let up. 2-0. Of course, you're lucky you didn't get hurt. If you had ever gotten hurt while fooling around in the infield,
somebody had gotten fired.
Oh, wow. Would you have been in trouble, or the manager, or a coach?
That's why the coaches always say, if I hurt you, I'm going to get fired. I'm not going to hit you ground balls.
3-0. Look out here now. You have Ellis Burks with Sock. 2 down in the 9th inning in a 2-2 tie. The chances are very, very big, with Rice on deck, that Burks could get the 3-0 pitch and a green light. And he likes the corner. Instead, he hit 18 last year. 3-1. And he's kidding, giving him a brushback for ball 4. He's teasing Jim Rice, who's on deck. Now back.
A lot of people in the American League think this youngster, not that youngster there, that is not a youngster, that's Tommy Lasorda. This youngster Burks is the next superstar in the league. He just has a tremendous amount of talent, just getting to the edge of it now. You see more power, more stolen bases, more RBIs, and a beautiful defensive outfielder.
3-2. Ground ball hard. Glove there by Tracy Woodson. And we're going to go into extra innings. And for the Sox, they've not had a man get aboard since the intentional walk to Greenwell in the 6th inning. And at the end of 9, a 2-2 tie.
Innings here in Winter Haven, and joining me, the Red Sox starting pitcher, Dennis Oil Can Boyd. Show them your shirt. Oil Can, he's my man, yeah. Red Sox.
Something else on the back, too.
We won't show that part, all right? Okay. You have certainly had your struggles these last 2 seasons, and the blood clots in your pitching arm. Have you been told why that has happened to you, and is there a great concern it's going to happen to you again?
No, I haven't been told that it will come back, and I haven't been told where it came from. All the x-rays and everything I went through last year, nothing could really tell where I had a bruise inside of my artery, and don't know where it came from. They couldn't tell. You know, I could have did it falling or leaning or pulling something or turning a doorknob or opening a car door or anything like that that could put strain on my shoulder. But I couldn't remember any instance where I slipped down and fell on it or anything like that, or wrestling at home with my son or anything like that that could cause anything to happen like that. And, you know, it was a lot of ups and downs, and it was scary most of all because I didn't really understand when I first heard about it. You know, I was overly concerned about how I felt about the operation and everything, but when the blood clot came, it was an entirely different thing, you know, life-threatening type situation. Lucky it wasn't in a vein or anything like that. It was in an artery, which would take the blood away from it, and which was good. That, you know, well, lucky, I would say, and fortunate on the behalf that I didn't really have to go anything crucial. I didn't have to go surgery to have what was in there removed or anything, or have the artery removed.
Are you pitching now totally without pain?
Yeah, I am. I can honestly say that the only pain that I'm having is everyday throwing pain. It's nothing like occurred in the last couple of years where I would have to put the ball down altogether, where I couldn't throw it for 20 feet or so. I haven't had anything like that. Even in the off season, when I was told after coming off the medication for taking blood thinners for the blood clots and everything, I was told that you go home once you get off the medication in, latter part of December sometime. I was told that I could start throwing. So I've been throwing since that time until today. And it felt fine, and I was told to watch my sleeping habits. I sleep on my arm. I got all these crazy ways of sleeping, and I cut the circulation off in it last year, and it never came back. And that was the time that the second blood clot came. So I'm very aware of my sleeping habits, and I take an aspirin every day to keep the blood running real good.
You do?
Yeah. And
okay. Let me ask you, with the loss of Bruce Hurst, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, outside of the own pressure that one puts on oneself to perform, you've got to feel some of the pressure of picking up that slack, because that was a tremendous loss. And I think more than ever, this team is relying on your coming through.
Well, you know, I have a different look at that, you know, as a personal point of view. I've always did the job since I've been here. And, you know, in the last 2 years, I was down and everything. I don't want to feel like I'm filling anyone's shoes, anything like that, because I have my job to do, and I've always had. And I've always been the caliber of pitcher with a Bruce Hurst or anybody that's on the staff that's capable of throwing the ball like Roger Clemens. There's not many guys, but I've always been in the second or third spot in this rotation. And, you know, sure, the loss of Bruce is going to hurt, but, you know, you have more than myself to pick up the slack. You know, you basically, regardless of what, if I come back, just say if I won 16, 17 ball games, it's still another guy on the staff that has to do the same thing. So somebody has to fill my spot if I'm going to fill his spot. So, you know, that was basically the way I've looked at it. We're going to miss Bruce, but we're going to do all right.
All right. Ken, thank you. Really appreciate your stopping by. I know it's hot out here. Good luck to you this season. Let's go back to Ben and Tom in the booth.
Okay, Gail. You know, Oil Can mentioned something. If you are a pitcher in the big leagues and your entire economy is attached to your arm, you can almost become neurotic and paranoid about the condition of that arm. Ground ball to short. Staying with it is Luis Rivera to throw out Darren Fletcher. And the Dodgers retired in order. And at the end of 9.5 innings, 2-2 tie. You know, Tom, in listening to Oil Can Boyd, and I mentioned the fact that you could become paranoid or neurotic about your arm. I hurt my arm lifting a suitcase. It's no big deal. It was my arm, but it hurt for a year. And I wonder, if you're a pitcher, do you have some rules? I don't lift suitcases. I don't do this. I don't do that.
Oh, certainly. You don't pet dogs with your pitching hand.
Really?
That's one thing. Sure, you don't. You just plain don't do it. You don't drive in a car with a window open and leave your pitching arm out the window where the air could blow on it. Don't sleep on the side. Sleep with the air conditioning off. Don't sleep on your right side. A lot of little things that just make sense, that are just really pretty simple.
And you wear your jacket on camera.
And wear your jacket on camera regardless if you're in Florida. You're right.
Jim Rice will start it off in the bottom of the 10th inning in a 2-2 tie. And left-hander Ricky Horton will take over now. So as Ray Searage had an acid test and did well in the 9th inning, now it's Horton's spot. High fly ball to right center. Gonzalez and Shelby, and it will be Gonzalez.
Well, if nothing else, they've kept Jim Rice silent today, which is not something that not many teams down here in Florida have been doing. 0 for 4.
That's right. Rice came into this game hitting .441, and they have shut him down. 3 fly balls and a ground ball. The batter now is Nick Asaski. Ball 1-0. Asaski was somewhat of a disappointment in Cincinnati. I think they felt and waited for him to produce, and he never had the kind of numbers they thought he was going to have. But he's got sock. He hit 21 home runs. He hit 22 home runs. batting average in the big leagues, 245. He's 6'3", 215. Hits one off the stick to Randolph. A bouncer, and it got by Hatcher. And Esaski will be credited with an infield single. Hit it just off the end of the bat. And now they're switching, so we'll make it error. They had the H, but now they put the E up.
Good throw would have had him. I guess he fielded it clean. He should have made a good throw on that. That was an error. It's one thing, though, is that Hatcher stayed on his feet on that play, which is kind of a first. He didn't.
That's right.
He did not go to the ground. I've been keeping track. That was the first one.
He has really spent a day. We're in the 10th inning of a 2-2 tie. Rick Cerrone, the batter. Nick Esaski at first. And Ricky Horton trying to hold on to the tie. Breaking ball hit to third. Woodson, who's been replaced by Dave Hansen. And they get the out at second base despite the hard slide by Nick Esaski. And Dave Hansen, a young third baseman, finishing up for Woodson. So it's a force play, 5-4, and Esaski really getting down there to break up the double play.
Esaski got down there quickly, and Cerrone running, and he can't run at all. I mean, it's just a dead giveaway. Cerrone just doesn't have any foot speed, but what prevents the double play is a good hard slide by Esaski. Good clean play. Nothing wrong with it. Clean hard slide into second.
Ed Romero playing third base today. Wade Boggs out with a muscle pull. And the count 1 ball and no strikes. They might have a runner for Cerrone, I would think. In fact, they are looking, Al Bunbury is looking down to the Red Sox bullpen, telling them to get ready. I guess if Cerrone gets to second base, they'd put a runner in. Romero is 0 for 3. Two and 0, and now ball 3. 3 balls and no strikes. I was just thinking, here is a nationally televised exhibition game, and if you're Dave Hansen, a kid who's going to be in the minor leagues, they're seeing you all over the country today. It's a great part of the spring training. Hansen at third, finishing up for Tracy Woodson, and he's a local boy, lives in Roland Heights from Long Beach. They're very high on him, but what a thrill. Now back. USF&G third round coverage coming up immediately following baseball. We'll get an update. I assume Charlie Jones with Lee Trevino down there and near New Orleans. And they'll give us an update. We knew that Tim Simpson and Dan Forsman were tied, but some big names are high up on the leaderboard. People like Tom Kite, Greg Norman. We'll get you an update in a minute. There goes the runner. And the ball hit to straightaway center, and Shelby is there. So in the 10th inning, no runs, no hits. There was 1 error, and there was 1 man left. 2 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Red Sox. And let's tee it up and go to GOW. Thank you, Charlie, very much. We have 1 out in the 11th inning in a 2-2 tie. It's been a lot of fun. It's an exhibition game, meaningless in many ways, and we certainly don't want to be on the stage too long and take away from what is shaping up to be a great third round of the USF&G. We'd like to remind you next Saturday will be our NBC Game of the Week special. Not a game, but it'll be a special on the 1989 baseball season. Coverage, insights into the National and the American leagues. And then, while we'll be back on Saturday afternoon, April the 9th, the Dodgers at Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta for the first game of the NBC Game of the Week. And Tom, it was a pleasure sitting here with you, and look forward to working all summer long. Hope you enjoyed it today.
I certainly did, and there's nothing like doing a ball game down here in beautiful Florida. Great weather and just a great atmosphere, and fine game today. Saw some outstanding plays, and and two good ball clubs that should be in contention in both of their divisions.
One thing will be better, and that will be on the 9th, because then it will count. So for Tom Seaver, this is Vin Scully inviting you to stay tuned for golf as we bring you the third round coverage of the USF&G Classic from New Orleans.